I really wish, if there was one thing I could change, actually, is that I wish the Guild Wars 2 community as a whole could be way more cohesive. Because right now, it is so shattered. You know, I mean, I often say this, and I'll say it again here. The problem with the Guild Wars 2 community is that there is no Guild Wars 2 community. It doesn't exist, right? Everyone is completely divided and separate, instead of actually being like a single unit that kind of works together. You know, for the betterment of the game as a whole. And a core part of that is the divide between players who try and get better at the game and want to have a high win rate, and players who don't, right? Simple as that. And, yeah, that's the big problem here. Okay, you know what? I'm going on Discord. I'm hopping on Discord right now. I'm going to leech a Drizzlewood Coast, because the only thing that can, that will allow me to tolerate Drizzlewood Coast, is some kind of, like, bizarre debate, okay? So let's do this. I'm going on Discord right now, and we're going to get this going. Okay, prepare. Sneb and Aizza, consider yourselves summoned. Right, you're summoned to Stream 1 Hardstuck Discord. This debate is going to be pretty exciting. You know, I think it's going to be... I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be discussing, but I think we're going to be discussing a few interesting topics. A few interesting topics here regarding the PVE community. And, you know, some attitudes there, some community attitudes to some of the stuff. Sneb is here. Representing the casuals. The filthy, dirty casuals. And in the other corner, weighing in at 7 pounds, the number of players left in the PvE scene. Representing the hardcore, toxic elitists. It is Aizza, Downstate Cuck's leader.
Hold on, I don't know if I want that responsibility.
Yeah.
The accent's still the leader.
And Sneb Goose leader.
Goose leader.
So, gentlemen, we're here to debate. What even is this debate about? It's
going to be a debate, though.
What is this even about? Because I don't know. I've heard
discussion,
whispers
debate
about this.
It's not really a debate. I think Aizza and I agree on more things than not. We just wanted to talk about it.
Okay.
So,
let us speak. Describe the taste of the issue to me.
Sneb, I think you described the issue very well. Go ahead and describe what your
hopefully I know what the issue is.
Here we go.
Okay, so this is my understanding, and you fill in the gaps, Aizza, if I miss anything. But my understanding is that we're here to talk about how oftentimes sort of the hardcore community, or the people that are really passionate about speed running and doing those sorts of activities in game, are sort of villainized by the other members of the community. And you see this on things like Reddit, where sometimes people will downvote the things, they're not as popular, or people will say rating is toxic, and they'll just constantly talk about how it's toxic and blah, 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 blah. And you see this on Facebook groups, you see this on Reddit, you see it in-game. And, you know, this group of players that really just enjoys sort of pushing the limits of the mechanics, and for whatever reason, they are hardcore villainized. And I think it's kind of... undoubtedly, there are people that are toxic in the raid community. Absolutely no doubt, right? But that doesn't mean that every single player is, or every hardcore raider is. And in fact, it's odd to me that these people are often villainized when they're the ones that are, not all the time, but much of the time, going into pug groups, helping people, giving people tips, answering questions on Discord.
Making the builds.
And yeah, making the builds. And so that's why I believe we're here discussing at this moment.
I think that's a pretty good summary of the issue.
I think that's a good summary of the issue. I think there's a lot to the issue. It's not like, you know, people might take it as, I guess, whining, or, you know, people saying, oh, well, you know, just ignore the hate or something. But it's almost like it's ingrained in the community now, and there's this divide, and it's like two factions. We're back in Guild Wars 1, and we're the hardcore community's the Kurziks, and the casual community's the Luxons, or whichever way you want to split it. But they're just battling each other, and there's no reason for it.
Yeah, and I think there is one really interesting thing to note here. Actually, it really does depend. It depends on the context, and it depends on a lot, even on like the day. It's like an RNG thing, because one thing that you will notice is that a lot of stuff like the crazy speedruns and low man stuff from raids actually gets upvoted a lot. People like that stuff on the Reddit, right? Maybe I think people are probably less fans like in stuff like Facebook, I guess. Like that's where, you know, I think that's where you're gonna encounter like the really intense version of the effect we're talking about here for sure, I think. But at least on the Reddit,
somebody on Facebook once said, raiding is so toxic, I'm surprised they haven't burned it all to the ground yet.
So
I actually responded to it and I was like, do you really believe that everyone in raiding is toxic? Can you give me an example of a time that somebody was like this? Oh, well, I personally haven't raided, but I just hear about it all the time.
So, okay, I'm curious then, Sneb, okay? Where do you think this comes from?
Where do I think it comes from?
Yeah.
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. I actually called somebody out on the Reddit, was it a day or two ago? Because they mentioned how raiding is toxic, and it's in my opinion has come from a series of events over a long period of time, right? So over and over again, this idea that raids are toxic is reinforced in people's minds because people read it on forums, they hear it in the game, they hear about it on podcasts, whatever, right? They constantly are exposed to this. So even if they haven't had those experiences themselves, they're having these secondhand experiences. And unfortunately, those experiences are very much in the minority, right? They're very much in the minority. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah. But they're just made so grandiose that everyone believes that that's just the way it is all the time. And yeah, I think it's just we've perpetuated this idea to the point where people believe that it's 100% a reality all the time. And now, even if people haven't experienced it themselves, they just think that's the way it is. And it's really unfortunate because on NA, like so few people raid that honestly, now when I go into pug groups, it's not that they're super toxic. It's just that they're wicked inexperienced. People generally aren't super toxic in pugs anymore. They just don't know what they're doing. So it's kind of interesting how this has all come full circle.
Yeah, it definitely is a big problem in the community. It's difficult to break away from it because this is the other really big problem I have with this is that, you know, if I wanted to talk to a speedrunner, that's so easy to do, right? You know, there's a whole bunch of them that you can go and talk to, but it's very difficult to actually talk to people who feel this way to figure out why exactly, which is why you kind of gave the answer. Yeah, it's a good question, right? Like, why do people feel this way about speedrunning and about the hardcore community and all this stuff? I mean, obviously people have bad experiences, but that's not a very good, that's not a very good reason to, vilify literally the entire community, right? Or every single player like that. It's a bit weird, right? It's a bit, you could do the same with casuals, right? You could say, oh yeah, like one time a guy joined and leached my raids, right? Like that means I hate all casuals. Well, no, of course not, people are individuals and they behave differently, but it just seems that for whatever reason, there is this, it's a bit deeper than this as well, almost as well, actually, like I think, with Guild Wars 2, it's almost, there is a bit of a why are you trying attitude. Like, why are you min-maxing? Like, why are you playing the game well attitude? You see this a lot in every game mode, by the way.
Yes.
It's almost a bit of like a dirty word to actually put in effort to be good at the game, right? A lot of the time. It's like, oh, this is Guild Wars. This is a casual game, right? This is a casual game, bro. Right? Why are you trying? Like, imagine taking this game seriously. And I do find that very, very unusual because I don't think you really experience that in other games nearly as much. Well, it does seem to be a little bit more Guild Wars 2-ish.
Don't just apply it to games, though. Apply it to anything. So let's say you have a hobby and you really enjoy basketball. You like sports, whatever. You didn't play in college, right? You just like basketball. It's like if you went to play pickup in the gym and somebody was like, bro, why are you trying so hard? Bro, why'd you make that three? Bro, why did you drive in? Bro, why did you block my shot? Like, if you apply it like that, it just doesn't make sense. Why are you criticizing somebody for putting in an effort, right? For caring about something, for being passionate about something. let's apply it to like collecting something, right? Maybe somebody has a massive Magic the Gathering card collection. You're like, bro, why are you trying so hard with those cards? Bro, why are you buying these cards? Bro, why are you collecting these cards? Bro, why are you grading the cards? Like, asking somebody why they care about something, why they're passionate about, and then criticizing that passion is just so illogical to me. It doesn't make sense. You should celebrate that passion. Like, I am never going to be a speedrunner. I will never have the patience to grind like that. It's just not me. But that doesn't mean I can't be like, wow, that takes an enormous amount of effort. Wow, these people really care about perfecting this. It's like a science. And I think we should applaud and celebrate that passion no matter where it is. To me, that's what being an adult is about. It's recognizing, hey, this isn't something that I'm particularly good at or I'm particularly passionate about, but I enjoy and can appreciate the passion that others have.
Like, and it extends past even why are you trying rotational. There have been times where I will just pug, like, and I'll get into some of the, like, I've been pugging offline, had my account offline for like 3 weeks and taking notes on what I've seen for basically for this conversation. And there have been times where someone will have subgroups organized a certain way, and they'll be like, hey, it can be a lot more efficient if you just swap these two people or something. And the commander is just like, why would I even care about this? This is a casual just get the kill run. And I'm like, I'm not asking you to change everything around and force people on certain classes. All I'm asking you to do is give assassins presence to the power classes or something simple like that. Like, they get angry at me for something so simple as that. It's just click and drag twice. It's not like I'm asking you to move a mountain. I don't understand it. It's like when, you know, like taking Sneb's thing of relating it to real life, do you blame your Olympic athletes for your country when they win a gold medal? Or do you celebrate and say, my country just won the gold in X event? Like, what's the point in getting angry at people for trying?
Yeah. And I also think that, you know, I think this is the real core of the issue that I think I would point out, because if I had to guess, I would probably say that the reason there is hostility is because, kind of what you said there, Aizza, players are worried that they're going to be, like, really dictated on how to play a certain way, right? Like, they're worried that the way that they play the game is threatened by a lot of the hardcore players, right? And you know, I can kind of see where they're coming from there. You know, they don't want to have to do all the speedrun strats and stuff like this. The simple fact of the matter is that, listen, okay, if you are someone watching this who has that concern, then do not worry, right? You do not need to have that concern. Trust me, the hardcore players do not care how you play the game at all, right? In any way. I can promise you that, okay? And honestly, I think there is a certain level of irony here. I think it's almost like a case of mistaken identity. The type of player who's going to be really, really toxic in any game mode, by the way, right? In PVE, PvP, or World vs. World, the type of person who's going to kind of like yell at you and tell you how to play, they're probably not that good anyway. You're not going to see, you're not going to tune into, Syndrome or Draza, right? They're not going to be like saying, wow, look at how fucking trash these people are, and start, flaming everyone in map chat. No, it's going to be some like random gold 3 thief who thinks he's hot shit. Like, that's who's going to get toxic, right? And the people in raids who do this, they're agonizingly mediocre are the people who actually get toxic almost all the time. There are some people at the high level who are toxic, right? That's true, right? No question about that. I think people are maybe want to talk about Tyler One there. Obviously, a very good player who's somewhat famous for getting a little spicy sometimes. This is true. There are exceptions to the rule. There are toxic players at high level. Absolutely, that's true. Okay, but in the minority, most players, okay, who are high levels, your Snowcrows, your QT, right, etc. These are very respectful, very non-toxic players who are often very helpful. You'll often see good players, guilds like Lucky Noobs, Snowcrows, and QT. You'll see them in pug groups. Even if the pug group is not great, they're just like, whatever. I'm just playing, right? I'm just going to try and do my rotation, just try and play, right? That's not where the root of toxicity is. The root of toxicity is in people who get frustrated and don't know what's going on. And that just doesn't really happen that much with like the true hardcore scene, for sure, in my opinion.
I want to address something that was so-called 94 in chat. There's so many hardcore raiders that are toxic, some from SC, some for Hardstuck, some from other guilds. Who? Name them.
Yeah,
I want you to name them to me right now, if you know them.
You don't
if
even
you
have to do it in...
Tell me.
You don't even have to do it in public. Whisper us.
Here. I'm typing random letters in Twitch chat. Whisper me. Because I don't think you're right. I really don't. I know there are some, but when you say so many, that's labeling the entire community.
Yeah, and that's exactly the problem. So, yeah, who? Because the reality is that a lot of these players that you're naming barely play in pickup groups.
I'll tell you right now, when, like, our guild, we don't do a lot of raiding outside of Raid League right now. Like, some of our players legitimately uninstall the game for 3 weeks and come back for Raid League. And that's kind of a theme around a lot of hardcore guilds, because the game right now is just, it's been the same game for so long for us that there's no reason to continue playing it. It takes you a couple hours to get back into the swing of things and you're fine. So when you say that so many of the hardcore community, I think you're mislabeling the hardcore community. I think you're referring to the people that TeaPot was just mentioning, who think they're in the hardcore community, but really aren't.
And to kind of compound onto this, with this same direction here, like, the really, really tragic part about the current interaction between hardcore players and, just regular normal players in Guild Wars 2 is that, in fact, we should be best friends, okay? And I'm serious there, so I'm not joking. I'm not doing that as a meme. Like, the hardcore community and just the broad player base, they are absolutely allies when it comes to actually making the game work. Hardcore players need normal players, more casual players, to actually play the game, right? In order so it's successful, right? And therefore, you can get more content for the hardcore players. But simultaneously, more casual players and players who just play the game in a more normal fashion are also in a great spot to actually benefit from all of the hard work, right, of all of the top players. For example, if you want to find out what's like a really good build for your profession, well, I've got some great news for you. Some really greasy nerd had a spreadsheet and figured it out for you, okay? And these are the type of players who are invested enough to make stuff like YouTube videos, to make stuff like rotation guides, website content like the Snowcrow's website, even a Discord server that something like Hardstuck or something like Snowcrow's, where you can go and answer, get questions asked. Right? These are the type of players who are more likely to be inclined to teach players and want to help players learn to understand the game, either by showing off really good content in speedruns or whatever. And that's another thing too, right? Hardcore players also provide, entertainment and hype, right? PvP tournaments, right, are great for, building up and getting you excited, inspiring players to try around the game. And look, people love the raid tournaments, like the raid tournaments always do really well in terms of their viewership as well, and people seem to be excited by those. So I really wish, if there was one thing I could change actually, is that I wish the Guild Wars 2 community as a whole could be way more cohesive, because right now it is so shattered. I mean, I often say this, and I'll say it again here. The problem with the Guild Wars 2 community is that there is no Guild Wars 2 community. It doesn't exist, right? Everyone is completely divided and separate, instead of actually being like a single unit that kind of works together, for the betterment of the game as a whole. And a core part of that is the divide between players who try and get better at the game and want to have a high win rate, and players who don't, right? Simple as that. And, yeah. That's the big problem here. And slight bonus meme here. Oh, sorry to cut you off there, but a big bonus meme. Someone was asking that, I don't want to, I don't want to have to like hold people back by, play, I want to play the game my way. The great news for you is that all endgame PVE content is tuned fairly mildly. As long as your build isn't totally useless and actually does something, it is definitely raid viable. I can almost guarantee it, right? Like, there are builds that I consider to be not super amazing. I mean, look, even if we take like a pretty strident example of this, let's take Shout Heal Warrior. That build is not actually that bad, right? Like, it's not so bad that you couldn't run it in a raid and do kind of okay with it. People might give you some funny looks, but I mean, it's not as bad as you might think it is, right? But yes, I want to, Sneb and Aizza get in here. Okay, Sneb go, then Aizza, easy.
Yeah, let me just briefly jump in. I think we ought to think about, you know, why is it that people ask for certain professions, right? Or certain classes, rather. They ask for these things because they believe it increases their win percentage in a pickup group. When you understand that, you can empathize with why they're making that decision and saying, oh, you're playing Reaper at Cairn? Well, no, you can't do that here. Bye. They're saying this because that's pretty inefficient at Cairn. Is it totally viable? Correct. Is it optimal? No. But you could argue that playing like Condi Hollow would also be pretty inoptimal, right? I don't know. The point is people make these decisions because they think it will increase their win percentage. And in pugs, they're absolutely correct. If I'm in a pug and I absolutely want to get it done, I'm going to like mandate that people play Scourge. Because I know that that's one of the safest ways to get through this. That said, people look at that and they have a mentality that that's toxic. I don't believe it. Look, if you have a commander tag and you have the power, you get to decide who is going to play with you, and you get to decide if they get to play with you. Obviously, it sucks when you're excluded from that group. I have been that person. I was excluded from a lot of groups and still sometimes am, right? That's okay. It's okay when somebody's like, hey, this is what we're looking for. You go, oh, I don't have it. And they go, hey, well, sorry, this is what we're looking for. If they are the leader of the group, that's okay. It's like if I went to the gym and let's pretend I'm actually muscular. And I went and I had to like, and I was gonna lift something really heavy, and I was looking for a spotter, okay? And I was like, oh, I need somebody to spot me. I'm not gonna go to the 14-year-old who's there with his dad and be like, hey, you want to spot me like if benching like 250? Because that just doesn't make sense, right? I might go and I'm looking for somebody who's gonna work out with me and be roughly equal. Maybe a little bit higher, a little bit lower in experience or skill or whatever, and that's okay. It's okay to look for somebody like that. It's absolutely okay. Now, what's not okay is if I was looking for somebody who's gonna spot me and I go up to the 14-year-old and I slap the weights out of his hand and be like, "You suck," and just like walk away, right? Like that's not productive at all. But the point is that everybody gets to make these decisions, and though you can be disappointed by them, I don't think it's right to call someone toxic unless they go on to do something to push it a little bit further than excluding you from the group. Now, does it feel good to be excluded from the group? Of course not. It kind of sucks. But I don't think you can be super mad at somebody when it's their group. They get to decide who is going to be in there. And you also have the ability to make a group. I don't discount that it's hard to make a group, that it takes a lot of time to figure out and understand how all the boons work and how classes synergize, etc., etc. But if they've gone through that effort and they've made the strides to get there, they also have the autonomy and the agency to make decisions on behalf of their team because they are the captain.
Yeah, I want to bring Aizza in, but I do really want to quickly respond to that because I think there is definitely another side to that. And I think it is super important to recognize that I can understand people being a little bit put out by some of this stuff because a lot of the time, people are actually a little bit silly about what classes people play, like in general. I think people are not very well educated on what's actually good and what is actually non-viable, right? Because realistically, almost everything is viable. I think you'd struggle to come up with like a non-viable build, that's for sure, for any specific profession. So I think it is really worth noting that you're absolutely right that people have, you can, if it's your group, you can do whatever you want. You can say, I only want to play with core NGs if you want to. That's completely legitimate. But it is worth noting, in my opinion, that people do have a very rigid take on what you should play in content, and that is based off misinformation, and it is based off of a misunderstanding regarding the game. But yeah, I think we should discuss that issue a little bit more, but I want to get, Aizza was about to dive in I don't want to give him his opportunity here. Give us the juice.
So, you know, when it comes to like controlling how people play, I'm gonna say this, and it's gonna come across
Oh my God.
a little toxic.
Ooh.
But there's not really another way for me to say it.
Ooh.
When really try-hard players go into pugs, whether it be for getting their clears or just for fun, one, oftentimes we're not doing it alone. It's usually a couple of us in Discord together, and we look for like a group that has 2 or 3 spots, and we all join together. 2, we go into it, for the most part, expecting for there to be a couple... How do I... leeches, I guess, is the only way to put it. So when things don't go perfectly, it's not unexpected. When someone touches an oil on Deimos, it's, alright, this is happening, we knew it was going to happen, let's get out of it, let's readjust, let's complete the kill. Like, let's figure this out. Or if people get ported on VG, you know, you quickly look, assess the situation. Does it make sense for me to go over and res them? Or is a green about to hit and they're going to die anyways? And I would down if I go. Like, it's like you kind of go into it expecting imperfect performance. And if people, most of the time, you're not going to find toxicity when things don't go well. When you're going to find people getting angry is if someone gives a suggestion. It was like, hey, things might go a little better if we do this, or however they might say it. And it just gets brick walled and said, no, do not try to change anything. That's not going to help or whatever. Then it starts to get a little combative, and that's where the problems can sometimes happen.
Yeah, no one's mad because you made a mistake, right? No one's mad if you make a mistake. They're mad if you lie to them about your experience level and make that mistake and just don't do the mechanic, which has happened to me a lot. Or they're going to be mad when you go back to the huddle after getting defeated, and a more experienced player says, hey, this is how you do that mechanic, or this is what needs to be done. And that person goes, no, I'm not doing that. Or they pretend like they're going to do it, and then they just don't do it. That's exactly what Aizza's saying, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Now it's going to get combative. Now people are going to be on each other because they're going to be upset because there's miscommunication. People just aren't on the same page.
Well, like, nobody's perfect. None of us are perfect. If you, like, we post these records all the time. You're going to, in fact, and this is, I guess, a shameless plug, but we're going to upload a current patch Doom record pretty shortly. And I was doing a green. If I told you how many times I screwed up that green during our grind, you would think I'm not a good player. It happens. I missed greens multiple times in that grind. People missed orbs or flew into the middle. Nobody's a perfect player. Nobody expects you to be a perfect player. And when a mistake happens, it's not like kick them, flame them on the first try. Like, just, okay, if it causes a wipe, let's figure out what that mistake was. Do you understand what mistake you made? Do you understand what that mechanic is? If yes, then, like, don't do it again. Let's improve. Let's keep going. If no, let's pause for 30 seconds. Let me explain why you got ported on VG. Hey, there's a blue circle under you, a little blue AoE. Move out of it, or block it, or dodge it, something. Like, it's people. I think a lot of people seem to think that perfect gameplay is expected. It's not even expected at our level when we're doing record grinds. I mean, yes, it is, but when a mistake happens, it's not the end of the world because we expect mistakes to happen. That's why a record grind doesn't complete in 30 minutes. It takes days, weeks, sometimes months, because you're not going to be consistently perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what you have to understand. That's what people need to kind of understand about not hard, but challenging PvE content in general, is that it's supposed to kill you. That's the whole point, right? Like, you are going to die. Wiping is why raids even exist, right? Otherwise, it would just be like, open world, right? There would be no difference in open world and raids, right? Like, the whole point of it is it's supposed to kill you at some point. Yeah. And you are going to make this. It's why it's engaging, right? The threat of the fact that you could lose at basically any time is why it's exciting. And ultimately, that's what makes speedruns intense as well, right? It's the threat that you have to get everything right perfectly. Otherwise, you're going to get punished and you're going to lose time, right? That's what makes stuff like this interesting and engaging. And it's not a big deal. And particularly, like, players who are more experienced and are a little bit more towards the hardcore end of the spectrum, They are going to be very, very familiar with losing. Like, just to really put this in perspective, actually, you know, to give even more perspective to what Aizza is saying, I think when the recent 4-man keep contract, I think it was like 500 wipes. Okay, it took them to do that. Maybe even more than that.
I think the exact number, I think was like 671 or something like that. Was how many polls they took.
Nice.
Like,
it's a long time, guys. It's very.
It takes a long time.
Yeah, it is indeed.
Take the HRP.
Yeah,
the HRP is a perfect example. Everybody watched 4 days total, if you count the open and the invitation. They watched 4 days. They watched each team for maybe, if it was, you're talking about the teams that played a lot of matches, maybe 5 hours worth of rating from them. And that 5 hours was probably the best rating that collective group of people have ever done in their entire lives. But leading up to that 5 hours was 3 or 4 months of wiping. I have over 18,000 logs on my computer from the last year alone.
And it didn't go perfectly on game day either.
Absolutely not. There were multiple wipes on game day. We had people get stuck in the platform at Zera and cause a reset. There were escort wipes. There was all kinds of wipes. And these are people that would be synonymous with the words tryhard or top 1% or S tier or whatever category you want to call it. So it's like, it's irrational to expect perfection in a casual setting, and there's nothing wrong with being casual either. I'm not saying that in a negative way, but it's stupid to expect perfection when you're just grabbing a bunch of random gamers together to hopefully be on the same page with the same strat for a boss and get a somewhat decent kill.
Hey, I've just got a thing that's bothering me now. I've been reading the chat a lot, and people are saying like, "Oh yeah, but you only upload the perfect runs." It's kind of the sense I'm getting is that people are like, "Oh yeah, but we don't see those 300 wipes." So now I'm putting that in other context. You go to a show at Vegas, you know, you go to like some magic show. You don't see the 300 times before where they failed that magic trick. But do you still think that they're like infallible? Like I'm not quite understanding people's point there. Is it really that in Guild Wars 2, because people seemingly only upload their good runs, that you think that they're like infallible, or that they can't make mistakes, or that the expectation is that they shouldn't be that hard? Like what are we trying to get at here? I'm a little bit confused. Because I would say that we should, when we see somebody who's really good at raiding, even if they're not like a speedrunner, if you see somebody who's like pretty experienced, you should be like, oh, it took a while for them to get like that. You know, like they had to practice. They had to put in the time. Now, that time required to sort of get good at raiding is different for everybody. Some people need more mechanical help. If they've never really been into games in that way before, they're going to have to learn how to do keybinds and stuff, and that takes more time. For somebody that's more experienced in other MMOs, like I've had people come in, I get them some exotic gear, and they're basically good to go in an hour and a half. So that varies greatly for each person.
Yep. But I think there is something there, though. I think that there would be a lot of value, in my opinion, not just from the, you know, showing people what it's really like raiding in a more try-hard environment. You know, if these top guilds did, say, stream, for example, you know, I think Yui was streaming for a while, just like regular SC clears, stuff like that, just regular SC raiding, just memeing around, going crazy. I think there is value to that, because I think not only does it give you a proper, like, real take, and, you know, Diaxon does this too, of course, now. You know, when he's raiding, he just, like, does stuff like runningly, just, like, memeing around at high level. I think there's value to this because not only it gives you that real take, but it also humanizes the people a lot as well. You know, I think it's very easy to, in a way, like, view people as just pixels, right? Like, online, you're like, oh, they're like this evil overlord entity, right? Of the speedrunners, the Snow Crows Guild, you know? I think if you do have a more kind of personal touch there, you know, when the communities do interact more, you do inherently get rid of some of the negative feeling towards it. Like, oh, I guess these people aren't so bad after all, right? And, oh, okay, they're all right, okay. I thought these guys were major assholes, but nah, they're cool. They're pretty cool, right? I think that sort of thing is really good. So I think it would be better if the communities were a bit more engaged with each other in every game mode, incidentally too, of course. It's something that I do try to do with the raid tournaments. You know, I think the raid tournaments are good for that. You know, you can really kind of hype people up a little bit and get people cheering for their favorite team, all that sort of thing. But yeah, I think there is a legitimate point there. But yeah, of course, you know, like just uploading, you're not going to upload all the shitty runs, right? Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
No, so
I just gotta say, this is just such an interesting concept to me that people think, oh yeah, I can do that, and then they watch like the Doom record and they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like try to copy that now. I don't understand, because I don't feel like that's really relatable in any other facet of life. Like you don't go to the magic show and be like, oh yeah, I can make that car disappear. Like, you know what I mean?
But that's the thing I don't get about like people, and I don't want to push people away from having that mentality of like, I can do that too, because you absolutely can if you put in the time. Like, but
hey, I mean, you could.
That's the thing is you have to put in the time.
Magic, you could too, right?
Exactly. You have to put in the time, and there are some limitations. There are some people that have certain limitations, whether that be reaction speed or finger speed, which is going to get memed on in chat, the fact that I said that. But like, if you can't push your buttons fast enough, your rotation will not be as good as someone who can.
Just to back up Aizza there, most players in Guild Wars 2 keyboard turn and skill click.
Yeah, and you have to train that out. Like, you can't... Like, skill clicking, to a certain extent, we actually have members in Win that are skill clickers. So, it's possible, but you have to work harder than someone who doesn't have that limitation, so to speak. And it's... It like, you can't take a strategy like when we have like the Doom, or I don't know, like take any record video or any HRP video or anything. You can't look at that and be like, yeah, I can do that tonight, and instantly you and your static, or you and even worse pugs, can just pull that off in a night. No, it took us so long to figure this out and to get these strats the way that we have them. And well, like you have to be realistic about your expectations.
I think this is where, though, you do have another really big point in a way that can't be avoided. I think there is a huge amount of a huge lack of guidance when it comes to what you should be doing in pugs, what kind of classes you should run in pugs, what kind of strategies you should run in pugs. Like, you know, in a way, the pugs just do kind of like figure things out and try and copy from speedruns as much as they possibly can, right? This is probably not the best way to go about it. There are certainly better ways to go about raiding than are currently the norm within the, you know, the kind of like the pug meta for sure, right? There are a lot of things that pugs do that are a little bit, okay, interesting. It might not be the biggest one. I think the biggest one I always see is like double Condi Quickness Firebrand, or like double full DPS Chrono with Seize the Moment, right? Like this is like, oh no. Oh no. Okay, this is how you have 2% quickness uptime, right? It's not going to go very well if you go this route. And I think that, yeah, I do think that, hey, I'm working on that, by the way, guys. The hardcore community, or you know, the experienced community, should definitely try and provide resources for players that are a lot more relatable. Because yeah, as we said, yeah, you're not going to do like 4-man KC, you know, in a pug. It's just not going to happen, right? You're not going to have people playing that well.
Sorry.
Oh, you go ahead.
That was one of my notes that I took over my 3 weeks of pugging offline. You want to guess the average quickness I had when I was not on a quickness providing role?
I want to say 50%.
Okay, that's a little lower than what I had. I had 62.8% average quickness when I was not on a quickness providing role.
Man, not even 69. Feels bad, man.
Yeah, not even 69. Not even the good low number. And like, we live in a world where boons they're cheaper than free, and I didn't think anything in this world could be cheaper than free. And people just don't understand. They don't understand how classes work. They don't understand how like general gameplay mechanics work. I don't really know how to describe it.
But here's the thing. It's not their fault.
No, it's not
entirely their fault. And people keep trying to debate this with me on my stream. It's not entirely the player's fault for not knowing these things. And telling them that they have to just go read resources is not good enough. There has to be something that sort of pokes them in the game to understand these concepts. but there really isn't. And for the most part, Guild Wars 2 is a game where none of that really matters. Boons could be deleted from the game and everyone would still one-shot all the world bosses, right? Like this, it doesn't matter, right? And so for these players, they get into a situation where suddenly all of this is relevant, but they've never really been sort of poked to learn it slowly, and they're forced to basically drink from the fire hose and learn it all at once. And that's a little rough for players. That's a little rough, you know? Like most players can't handle that all at once, and it takes them a long time to get good at endgame PVE, because even if they played for 1,000 hours, but it was all open world, many of these concepts have not been introduced to them. And I'm saying this as somebody who has done this from experience. I played the game for years and never understood boons or subgroups or any of that because I never had to. It was never taught to me in the game. It was never introduced to me in any meaningful way. And so I was blissfully unaware, right? I would look, this is real talk, by the way. I used to just play core NG with grenades and just run around in open world and throw grenades and just press 1. That's what I did. Is everything died to that, so I didn't really care.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's certainly a flaw in the complexity of the game, and yeah, the boon thing is definitely the number one thing. I think people really don't understand. Like again, simply because, you know, why would you, right? Like why would you inherently know that unless you actively go and learn about it? How good boons are. Right? You can get there if you do kind of sit there and work out the numbers, right? You can go like, oh, hang on a minute, wait, quickness is like a 30% DPS increase. Holy shit, that's pretty good. You know, you can go, oh yeah, 25 might gives you again around another 30%. Whoa, that's pretty good. And I think this is where Guild Wars 2 being a little bit different from other games in a way kind of screws it over, right? Because in a lot of other MMOs, you have buffs, right? But the buffs will be long, right? You'll apply them before you go in the fight, and then you don't really have to worry about them. You know, they'll last like an hour. Like you're like, oh yeah, I've got an intellect buff that lasts an hour. Like, I've got a stamina buff that lasts an hour. I've eaten some food that lasts an hour, something like that. Okay. But in Guild Wars 2, it's not like that. You know, it's very much in the moment, right? And there is one other thing here that definitely stems this. Like while we're on the topic of okay, this is gonna be my #1 Omega pet peeve. Okay, for pugs in particular. People think that if you have a build that should apply quickness, that it actually will, right? So people assume that, oh, okay, right, like this, the amount of boon duration I have on my chrono is enough to give exactly 100% if I play perfectly, right? And if no one misses it ever. So if everyone's perfectly stacked and the rotation is perfect, then you have enough, you know, to give quickness uptime, right? Let me tell you something, guys. This is false, okay? This is big fake news here. The probability that you're even able to play perfectly in a pug is actually insanely low. It's not even your fault. It's not even the case of, you know, like flaming people here. It's Guild Wars 2 is a team game, very team-based. It's not solo whatsoever. If your team isn't performing really, really well, then that means you can't either, right? As well. So in other words, in order for you to do like perfect quickness uptime, then you need perfect alacrity uptime. You also need to not have to dodge that much. Everyone needs to stack perfectly as well at the same time, right? All these things need to happen at the same time. Otherwise, your build isn't going to work if you have like the fully optimized Giga Min-Max Omega Chad Giga build, right? Doesn't work. Right? You need to understand the environment you're in. Yeah, sure. In a really super try-hard, sweaty group, yeah, you can run really low boon duration and super aggressive, right? Even, well, this is like the ultimate meme, right? A lot of very try-hard runs don't even run healers anymore, right? Because you can kind of fill in there using a lot of the hybrid builds. But thing is, that only happens in like 2 groups in the entire game, right? Everyone else has already quit, right? So this is what people really definitely need to kind of grasp as well, is that you want to play like the overkill, like mega carry, like cheesy builds, because it's not even silly within the context of most groups, because again, like the really optimized stuff requires your entire group to play well. But yeah, go ahead, Aizza.
Oh my god, this is... So, I had this... It wasn't even really an argument, because I don't think they were hearing what I was... or I guess reading what I was typing. It happened in the Hardstuck Discord. Someone was asking for tips on Boon Chrono. They wanted to learn Boon Chrono, and I linked them to the Lucky Noob site and to the Hardstuck page for the Inspiration Boon Chrono. Someone
Hell
else
yeah.
linked the Snow Crow's STM P Chrono, which was like it was P Chrono, the basic DPS P Chrono, so like Zerk and all of that stuff, with Scholar Runes and a
Ooh.
Concentration Sigil, 10%
Nice.
boon duration.
Nice.
And I said, absolutely
Do not play that.
not play that build if you are new. Do not play that build if you are not in a speedrun guild, because your quickness will be 40% or worse. There's no reason. I put together a GW2 skills link. I built them a build like in 5 minutes. I said, here's a 40 to 50% boon duration. That's probably minimum you want for a starter build. Take inspeed, take shield, take
Yes.
SOI, take quickness well, take time warp, take everything. Give all the quickness. There's no such thing as too much quickness. Like, it's just overload people. It doesn't matter. It stacks up to 30 seconds. Give them 30 seconds at all times of the fight. They'll be happy. That's your job. And I said, if you get more experience, then sure, lower your boon duration. Get more damage in there if you want. Make sure you can survive and give quickness while doing it. That's all that matters when you're an Inspi Chrono. Like, have fun, but give quickness. Like, there's no reason. 10% boon duration, let me tell you, that's not even what our Chronos run in win raids. That's lower than what we run. It's not ideal. It is not realistic.
Yeah, and well, you okay. Oh, this is where things are getting spicy. I'm gonna have to turn on everyone here. I do think that sometimes you do have to be really, really clear about. You have to be very careful about the way information is conveyed to people, and I do think that some of the things that have happened in the community are kind of the hardcore scene's fault, right? Like, you'd be hard pressed to justify the fact that a lot of the builds that are out there do tend to point people towards more optimized builds. Now, yes, is that pretty clearly stated on the website? Yeah, but you have to an extent, understand the way people are going to react to stuff and the way people are going to interpret information. So I don't think that we can entirely be absolved from responsibility here in that regard.
No, we can't. And yes, so the fact that Snow Crows is the most popular build site, I mean, that's just a fact. It is the biggest build site in Guild Wars 2 right now, and it is hardcore-based builds, and that's what it's designed around. There are not a lot of Peepo-friendly builds there, or you have to find them, essentially. Like, the perfect example is when you go to the Dragon Hunter page, it shows you Virtues. When you go to Banner Slave, it shows you Tactics Warrior. And, like, these things, while they're useful, they're not realistic for a casual, like, Virtues DH is not realistic whatsoever in a casual group. You will not have 100% Aegis uptime. You will not get the buff from that Virtues trait line that you are changing your entire build and rotation to be centered around. A Tactics Warrior to buff the power damage for the rest of your squad with Empower Allies, sure, that can be useful in Pugs, but is it really that useful? Are they really taking advantage of that extra power? Probably not.
Yeah.
So, like, the hardcore community is not completely, like, immune to fault here. I'm not trying to say that whatsoever. But at some point, people have to understand why they're raiding and what the purpose of these raids are, and be realistic about expectations. I don't know.
Snebzor,
so the expectations thing is the expectations thing is perhaps the biggest problem with raiding in general, and that's the reason that there's such a big divide. People don't communicate those expectations very well. And actually, let me just go off. Look, I'm going to unleash on this for a second.
Whoa.
The stupidest thing that exists right now in the LFG culture is on NA specifically, is we don't really ask for KP as much. There's still people to do, but it's not, more often than not, they just say training, semi-experienced, and experienced. People of the chat, my good friends, what do those things even mean? Right?
I actually wrote this down in my notes. What dictates a good player or an experienced player?
Yeah.
How do you measure it?
How do you define who is experienced and who is not? I'll tell you my definitions, and then trading with KP. Anyway, I'll tell you my definitions, and you can see, we'll compare. For me, somebody who is truly experienced knows multiple roles and has played multiple roles to kill on that boss, they don't necessarily have to have done all the roles. An example is maybe you haven't done Kiter at Kadim, but you know what Kiter is doing, right? Like you know the mechanic, you just personally haven't done it. My definition is you have to have killed the boss multiple times with different roles and understand all of the mechanics. Maybe that understanding isn't perfect, like it's maybe not like top 0.1%, but it's pretty solid. Semi-experienced is you maybe killed the boss like once or twice, maybe, or maybe you've gotten the boss to like 10% or something, but you know most of the mechanics fairly well. You're kind of still at the learning phase, but you're going to be competent in, your build, and you're like set up with that. Training is you know almost nothing and you are learning everything on the fly. You've just like looked up a build, you know a little bit about your rotation, you might have practiced it a bit, but you need somebody to sort of hold your hand and walk you through, and that's okay because that's where you're at. The problem is that people don't agree with those, so there's no consensus definition of this. What do you think?
So I pose a question to both of you, and this is a very real question. What's the difference between a player who pings 10 KP and a player who pings 50?
Nothing.
Exactly, because you know what? That's 10 boss kills either way you spin it. You could get 50 KP from 10 kills, you could get 10 KP from 10 kills.
Yeah, it depends how good your RNG is. There's
Exactly.
very little. For me as a player, I don't feel like the difference between me as a raider with 10 KP was much different than 50. It wasn't much different.
I think it depends how you
There's
go.
probably
I think
a little
it depends.
bit.
I think it really depends.
Yeah.
Like, for example, when I played on progression raiding, in basically every raid wing, when the boss actually died, I was very familiar with every mechanic, right, with 1 KP, right? Because, we played for like 6 hours, right? We were grinding it out, we were wiping and shit. We did CM afterwards as well. So I only had 1 KP after we did CM as well. But I was extremely familiar with everything because I'd just done it so many times, right, and wiped on it so many times. So I think KP is a bit nebulous, but I do think there is a bit of a difference there as well. I think if on average, if you do like a 10 KP group versus a 50 KP group, I think you will find a difference in kill time and win rate for sure on average. Okay, but yeah, it is nebulous. I think this is where you definitely get into the point where you're critiquing the game, right? Because ArenaNet, in their quest to make it so that players can't be elitist, have in their own way made the game very elitist. Because this is a really hard pill to swallow for anyone in the chat, guys. This is my unleashing here. The simple reality of everything, guys, is that if there is a win condition in a video game, players will optimize towards that any way they can. And if the game doesn't provide a methodology to do that, like with, say, rating in PvP, for example, or something that you can use, like an achievement that said, you've done this mechanic or whatever, an achievement, a title for doing challenge modes and stuff like that. If the game doesn't provide that, then the players will make it. And that's called killproof.me, right? People have made their solution. Is it perfect? No, right? It's not perfect whatsoever, but it's better than nothing. It will yield better results than not using it, and as a result of it, yeah, the players are obviously going to go for it. So I think with all future PvE content, I really hope they've done this for strikes, by the way. There needs to be something that says this player can be relied upon to do this mechanic. I always say that there should be like an achievement that says that you've done a mechanic X times, right? This will be hard with some mechanics, but let's just, an example here, right? There should be an achievement that says that you've done Doom Green 10 times successfully, right? You did Doom Green 10 times, right? Then, if you say, hey, I'm looking for someone who can do greens on Doom, then great, you can just ping this achievement, right? And this is another problem. There isn't really a very good achievement pinging system in the game. There should be, right? There should be a way that you can say, yeah, I've got this achievement, right? Other than you have titles, right? And well, we're not going to add a title for each mechanic. That will probably be a little bit overkill, but there probably does need to be some kind of mechanism for this, because otherwise you're never going to get away from killproof, right? It's just not going to happen.
I would like, and I don't think this would ever happen, but I would like for them to adopt something they did in Guild Wars 1. I would like tiered titles for number of times you have cleared a wing or a boss, however you want to spell it. So, like, let's say take Wing 1, for example, and they name it, have different tiers like Master or Commander or whatever it wants to be, and all the way up to, tier 10 is you've cleared it 100 times, 200 times, whatever arbitrary number they want to put. But at least it's something concrete to show I have completed this encounter X number of times. So you can relatively expect me to have X value of knowledge on this encounter, because you could, but realistically, most people are not going to kill VG 50 times and have zero knowledge of some aspect of that fight. Like, they'll have at least a baseline knowledge of what all the mechanics are. And I think they can be relatively reliable in a pug group to the same level of, like, the average player that raids. But it's just a more trackable way, kind of like how they had in, Guild Wars 1. You had rank 1 of the Kurzik title, and you were friend of the Kurziks. You get all the way to rank 12, and it was like Commander or something, I can't remember. But
could rank 12 for Doom be just like Doom's buddy? I don't know.
Yeah, like, it doesn't matter what it is, but yeah, just like something like that would be kind of... I think it's just a little bit better, because like KP, there's all these flaws with it. You can fake the chat codes. There's
Just
so many
feeds into
different flaws.
toxicity.
And if they could break it down to mechanics, that's even better. Yeah, because like someone who's killed Kadim 50 times and someone who has kited and tanked and done lamp on Kadim, each of those 50 times, it's two very different players.
Absolutely. And yeah, we're aware that there are solutions that the players have come up with this, but again, the really important thing, as Aizza says, it needs to be unfakeable, right? It needs to be and also in the game, right? If there was like a kill count in game that you could link to someone, right? I don't think people would actually mind it. People don't like the fact that they have to use an external source, which, by the way, I actually agree with. I don't use killproof.me because I'm lazy as hell, right? I'm not messing around with that. Like, imagine a player who doesn't raid. They have to go and, like, get this application going and, like, link their API to it. Fuck that. No one wants to do that, right? That's really annoying, right? It has to be in the game. And the natural question from this is that, obviously, if you did have an official way to do this, then yeah, that would obviously essentially allow players to, kind of, in a way, gatekeep a little bit. But this is where I think, again, ArenaNet and the community need to step up, in my opinion, right? This is how it needs to be.
But is it really gatekeeping? Like, I don't know. That whole thing is so blurred to me, because I really don't view it as a bad thing if somebody doesn't want to play with somebody who's less experienced. Like, it's okay. Does it suck? A little bit, but...
It's accidental, and it's linked to population, right? If there was a constant flow of new raiders, then it wouldn't be so much of a problem. But because the scene is pretty dry, I can definitely envision a scenario whereby you're a new player and it's like, how the fuck do I even start doing this? Because everyone will be like saying, hey, we want 10 kills, 20 kills, 30 kills. Is that a bad thing? No, but it's a bad thing because of the size of the community, right? That's where the problem is. So I think that, well, and the solution to this is easy, right? The solution is very, very easy. Is that how at KP? Actually, not so much. Like, there are actually there are a good amount of like training groups and low KP groups, and hey, you can always make your own. I think there are a few things.
Yeah, but how would that change? Yeah, that's kind of a good point, though.
I think you would see
Wouldn't those
more
things all
people
still
do it.
exist?
I think you'd see a lot more people doing it, right? If there was an official way to do it in game, then yeah, people would be like all over that a lot, like big time, which would be concerning. But again, I want to talk about the solution here as well, though, because there are two problems where this really comes from. One, it's very hard to be a forward-facing guild without actually using a bot to advertise in the LFG the entire time. And secondly, okay, there's no... There probably aren't enough guides on how to actually get started. Not stuff like, oh, get gear and stuff like that. It's how to actually approach raiding. I think there needs to be way more resources and spaces to discuss this as public as possible, by the way, because one of the issues I have with a lot of communities in Guild Wars is that they are very sequestered away. They are very... they are very hidden, right? It's very difficult to kind of get in there unless you already know it's there, if that makes any sense, which is no good, right? It means the discoverability is very low. Great example of this. Look at any Discord in Guild Wars 2. any of them, like even the biggest one. I think Cellarfrag actually has the biggest Discord, by the way, the giveaway lord, right? Like 20k people or some shit. Okay. In World of Warcraft Classic, a boomer hilarious joke video game where you only auto attack and use 3 skills, the classic WoW Warrior Discord, right? Warrior has 76,000 members for one profession or one class.
Yeah, but that's because the game is more centered around actually progressing your character and becoming skillful at the game. Whereas Guild Wars 2 is more leaning towards story and, you know, just sort of hanging out and being casual and killing a boss here or there. It's kind of strange in a sense, because Guild Wars 2 is definitely the more skillful game, right? Like, it takes a lot, and that's why people struggle when they come to it from WoW initially and they try to like PvP or something, because it's very skillful. But most of like the open PvE, nothing funnels you into content that's actually going to, you know, help you hone that skill or sort of train those skill muscles, right? So you just end up most of the game is you just, you know, hanging out with your friends, chatting and auto attacking to kill a world boss, getting a bunch of gold. It doesn't, and maybe some fashion wars along the way, but there's in World of Warcraft, it's like ingrained into you to like progress, right? And to like get better gear, and the only way to get better gear is to like do these more difficult things. And to me, they're totally different, right? Like, obviously, you're gonna want those resources to be a better warrior if the only way to get better at the game is to do that thing. But in Guild Wars 2, you can get the best armor in the game without ever having to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no easy transit. I don't even want to use the word easy. There's no logistical and logical transition into raids. I'd say probably the most accurate would be maybe fractals. Strikes are not it. They're just not near raid level difficulty. Your higher tier fractals are kind of there, but instabilities are like they're a whole different animal and a whole different beast, and so it's kind of very different, and it's 5-man obviously. But other than that, I mean, let's look at what we have in the game. We have open world bosses, which you can stand still and AFK and just push 1 and go make yourself a sandwich, and you win. We have dungeons, which once we got elite specs and power creep started to happen, dungeons are kind of a joke as far as difficulty goes. And that's it. Like, strikes are not, like, if you take a proper raid group into strikes, there's no challenge in it whatsoever as long as the encounter doesn't bug. And so there's no segue into raids. You just have to jump into raids. And it's daunting. It's intimidating. It's scary. Because you have this word raid in the back of your head, and raid is scary to think about. It's team content, people are relying on you, and it's supposed to be the hardest content in the game. And so just jumping in by yourself, feet first or head first, is not an easy decision to make. At least not in this game.
I want to mention why I brought this up again. The reason I brought this up was because TeaPot said that there's 76,000 people in a warrior thing for WoW Classic, Warrior Discord, and there's like 20,000 in the biggest Guild Wars 2 Discord. I don't believe that it's because people are, what's the word, like, uninspired or whatever. I don't even know. Like, obviously World of Warcraft has more players and whatever. I just think that you just don't need to be discussing your profession at a very high level for most of the game's content.
Well, this is why I think you need to have a very specific approach to this, though. I think that, you know, we as the more hardcore players need to demonstrate our value, okay? We must demonstrate our worth to the broader Guild Wars 2 community. I think the best example of this, and I'm really excited about how amazingly well this is going, actually, is the meta trade stuff we've started. Okay, since I made like an offhand video, I wasn't even really thinking that much. I was like, oh, dude, I'm going to advertise my meta trade because it was really hype, and I spent ages doing it, and it was like, oh, it's really cool. Okay, nearly 4,000 people have joined Hardstuck Discord in 3 weeks or something like that, because of this new meta train, right? And you know what? You know what's super interesting, by the way, okay, as well, is that after the meta train one time, I said, hey guys, let's go and play a daily AT, right? And we got 10 teams to go and play PvP. Most people never played PvP before, or like had never played a tournament before. I very rarely did it. I think it's not even a case of being you know what? I'm going to call myself wrong. I'm going to call everyone wrong. I'm calling everyone out right now. It's not even the case of finding the resource. It's the case of like people don't even know why they would even care about the resource, right? And you need to find a way to help people understand this sort of stuff is actually really good, and it can help you get what you want in the game way faster if you are part of a more social group when you're playing Guild Wars 2. It just needs a very different tactic, because you're right, Sneb. Players in Guild Wars 2, like if you say, oh wow, I can go and raid and get Ascended gear, Poggy Woggies, right? That's not a very good hook, right? Because everyone already has Ascended gear. And by the way, this actually might even get, well, this is actually worse with Legendary Armor, right? Because previously you had to raid to get Legendary Armor. You don't anymore. In fact, it's much easier to get it from, to get it lower effort, to get it from PvP and World vs. World, right? So even Legendary Armor isn't that attractive anymore. And that, by the way, is going to get way easier because, again, 100% of the chance, guys, here. I guarantee you this, right? They will release an open world Legendary Armor set as well. It will happen. And then you'll be able to get full...
we better buy all the Mystic Coins.
Yeah, and you... Well, yeah, exactly. You know, you better get some Mystic Coins right now. But yeah, there will be a Legendary set for that as well. And yeah, I really think that we need to demonstrate the fact that we have value, but also actually sell what people are buying, right? Like, you can sell raids all you want, but realistically, guys, okay, no one's buying it, right? You know what I mean? It's the opposite of Mystic Coins, okay, where everyone's buying those. But yeah, no one wants raids. I think you really have to start from the fundamentals, from the basics, right? Find what people are doing right now, show them how to make it better, right? We've taken the meta train and then bam, what people do normally is like farm gold and stuff, but yeah, let me show you how to do that better, right? And then we can get everyone into the community, and then you can start introducing people to some of this other content and other areas of the game that they might find interesting, right? Also, welcome to the mix, ArtyoTV.
Yeah. Hello everyone, yes, sorry for jumping in here. Yeah, thanks for having me. So I DM'd Teapot a little over a week ago now, I believe, about a topic that Aizza was touching on like 2 minutes ago actually, and a little bit earlier together with Sneb as well, that I would like to come back to. And it also connects to Teapot. You were saying selling raids. Basically, and in my mind it was more like, so I was instantly going, we have to sell the idea of raids to certain people. I just have to explain what I wrote you, maybe, so that chat has an idea of what we're actually talking about.
Tell the chat.
So I have to tell a little bit of a story from my raid trainings that quite a few people of you maybe heard about already. So I have, since I run my channel, which is not a long time, I have quite a lot of players coming to me, and maybe Sneb has the same experience as well, since he does this a little bit longer now. Looking, first of all, for a safe environment to learn for raids, and then I have also people coming to me telling me basically, like, I need help, I want help, I'm kind of scared to even try this, to get into this content. Like, I know my stuff, kinda, but I have huge anxieties. And that goes to a degree that I cannot even, like, explain you guys. Like, it's really, really bad. People are freaking scared of raids and with everything that comes with that. That also includes, well, everything that you see in LFG that we have talked about now to extensively, basically. But also how they get treated when they join groups, of course. But also everything they see in streams, how raids are even presented, because people always say, okay, like, raids are too hard for people. they're not even trying. When they do mistakes, like the Twitch chat thing is, I think, I don't want to fight with you guys right now. I don't know, it's presented as a hard thing, and people who have anxieties already, they're scared of, like, if I do mistakes, I hold people back. Maybe they kick me. Or it just takes forever and I ruin the fun for everyone else. And there is nobody actually there who says, okay, but that's alright, like we have all made mistakes. I mean, Aizza did it earlier. He was like, okay, we wiped for hours. I missed all the greens. I'm not perfect, nobody is perfect. But this is so rarely spoken out that like all of these players who have like they want to raid, they really want to raid, and they're actually quite good. I have some good examples there from my stream, and fear is everything that's holding them back. It's not even that they don't understand the game. Like I have players who play PvP a lot, even really good in high platinum, and they choose the super toxic PvP environment over rage, which like really tells a story. I have players who got legendary armor from PvP because they thought, like, this is what I need to have before I even like think about going into the raid direction. It's like super crazy stuff that people tell me, and I feel like a lot of players are not aware of this even being an issue. It's not talked about. Like Aizza did a really good job earlier, and I wish more raiders and streamers would speak openly about this, to just take away the edge, like the fear, make this a little bit more harmless. Because this is, from what I can tell from my experience now doing the raid trainings for these few months, the biggest thing that's holding people back is not even the lack of understanding and resources.
Well, and I understand that problem, and here's where I start to put it back on the community in a sense, because I would argue that that is out there. For a lot of people who maybe know the current Mela and don't know who Mela was, he used to be a speedrunner. He was in SC. He was a really, and he's still a really good player. I'm not trying to downplay and say he's a bad player now, but he makes mistakes on his stream all the freaking time. It happens. Look at D-Axon. He's a better player than me. He's the leader of the guild that I play with, and he's streaming right now. He literally just made a mistake not even 30 seconds ago. We're doing our 5 CMs right now, and he made a mistake on his stream not 30 seconds ago. Nice call out, buddy. And it happens. I mean, Yui streams, and I'm sure Yui makes mistakes. We all do. Everyone does. It's just kind of the fact of the game. I'm sure, I'm going to call you out, Teapot, and you, Sneb. I'm sure both of you make mistakes on your stream all the time.
I was raiding with Mela earlier. We're doing Wing 6 and 7, and he died. Yeah. Surprisingly often today. Even downstairs,
well,
but yeah.
I think it happens, and sometimes people have bad days. Like I'm sure you can tune into someone's stream, and on a specific day, they have a great day. They never make mistakes, or they're top DPS or whatever all the time. And then they'll have another day where they just repeatedly feed, and they just have an off day. It happens all the time.
I have this too. Like I think people approach me a lot because like it's kind of well known on my stream that I suffered from depression last year, work-related stress, got really sick, was just at home, and I still are recovering from this, and I have like my slow days quite often. So, and at the beginning I had a lot of people come to my stream who was like pointing mistakes out, and I have to explain myself, and it's not like nice. Kind of, because I try to show people like how to do things and explain stuff and like be educative, But luckily I can deal with that. But imagine doing this to someone who has already like huge insecurities and stuff. And what I noticed, like two or three players, they so now we have to come to the Twitch chat. Let's call it an issue. So they were watching raid content on Twitch, different streamers, and the best example was always Demos, and Teapot mentioned him already earlier with the oils being triggered. So they're watching raid content just to see what they're getting into. They're very interested. They're very eager to try this out. And then they see, I don't know, let's say Mela helping just a pack group getting their kill, tanking the boss, and they start triggering the oils. And suddenly you see Oilers in chat. People jumping on this like crazy. Then like everyone wants to know, okay, who was that? You see people pulling the logs, name calling. You see like players getting exposed. After the second times, you see like jokes and they making fun of this. And now you have viewers on your stream that watch this and see this happen, and they're going basically like, okay, when this happens, when I make a mistake in this raid, I'm not doing this. Like, that's not for me. I'm not getting into this shit. That's basically the direction.
Can I chime in on this?
Yes.
That's just. I want to affirm what you're saying first. I can imagine that, because this used to bother me too, right? When I would be making mistakes when I was first learning. I was streaming myself, learning raids, basically. I make tons of mistakes, and my mistakes were just put on like a pedestal all the time, right? Where everyone could critique me, and I used to let it bother me quite a lot. I used to just be like, stop, like you keep telling me that I suck, right? Like, stop it, right? But I suppose if you are going to go and be in a streamer's training run, you sort of have to understand that that's what's going to happen. And if you are a streamer, because I mean, I do this all the time, right? If you're a streamer, you have to sort of control that situation. So here's what I do. I put it on myself a lot. If somebody makes a mistake, I didn't call it out, or I didn't teach them well enough. And so it's not on the trainee. They might have touched the oil at Deimos, but you know what? I didn't tell them. I didn't be like, oil. I didn't make the call out. I didn't do it fast enough. It's my fault. So that's one way. Another way is if the chat is really being malicious, then you just bonk them. Right?
Emote only mode, chat.
Yeah, right. Like there's a difference, and honestly, I don't think when chat's spamming Oilers and stuff, I really don't think that somebody's sitting behind their keyboard and being like, "Oh, I'm gonna try to make this person hate themselves so much that they quit raiding."
That was not what I was saying. No.
Yeah.
But it's
there's
just
a lot of pressure on people either way, right?
Yes,
like
of course.
Yeah,
like I
keep
keep my. I mean, my chat is like really nice. For some reason, I have like almost everyone in my stream who watches me regularly has some sort of problem with anxieties, mental health, whatever. I just like I don't know what it is, but yeah. So they're not acting like this.
I can certainly empathize with that. I think a lot of times we don't know what other people are going through, right? And so if we're suddenly like really making fun of, like, even if we don't think that it's malicious, they might take that might be the one thing that really bothers them that day and gets them really down, you know? So you never know, right? And so if you are the streamer or the raid commander in that situation, I would always just be like, we messed up, right? It's an us thing. You're a team, right? If somebody in basketball is taking the final shot and they miss, everyone doesn't spam Oilers in the chat and like, oh, this guy, look at it, he missed the final shot and now we lost and oh man, like, you go, we lost as a team because we could have done X, Y, and Z before to prevent this, right? And then then it's less of a spotlight on one person's mistake and more of a, hey, we may have failed this as a team, but we're going to go in together and we're going to get it, you know, because we're going to fix these things.
So yes, I agree, and I didn't want to say like Twitch chat is like mean all the time, but I'm kind of just here to like raise awareness probably, because I feel like way too many people are not like, they just straight up don't know that this is an issue for I would say even a very huge amount of players in the player base, and yeah, so maybe like that's already good enough. I mean, the streamer should also keep his stream chat in check, of course. Like, you're completely right there. But you have to keep in mind, basically, chat, what this is doing to players when they're watching raid content and they are interested and they want to learn and they see, like, there was an extreme example now, but like they see this escalating and this is just pushing them away again. Like they made the first step or maybe the second step after watching some YouTube videos. They want to see this now in actual gameplay. So they made the first or second step and then they got pushed away from this again. And all we want to do is invite people to play the content and to join us and get their training and get the knowledge and improve their skills and become better players and enjoy the same content that we enjoy.
Yeah, I think that you have to be a little bit careful with the tone of things. I do like I do like keeping things lighthearted. I think it is quite funny if people are kind of just making some jokes, but you have to make it very clear that's the case, right? And you got to shut it down if it does end up malicious for sure, right? Like 100%. I agree.
Yeah, sure.
This is something that I actually really don't like about the community. This really not specific to raiding again, but whenever there are this really pissed me off. I swung the ban hammer a lot on this because it really annoyed me. So during the Hardstuck raiding party, right, there were some new teams in the open bracket, and yes, they were learning, right? They were new, right? Yeah. They were new to raids, right? And dude, like, the thing is, okay, right? I want to be super clear here. They weren't bad, right? Okay, like, calling them bad, it would be a very, very inaccurate statement to make, right? They were new to the idea of speedrunning, and they probably hadn't done anything like that ever before. Certainly not in front of like an audience of 2,000, 3,000 people, right? Okay, and the chat. Okay, like these motherfuckers would have done any better, okay? They were like, oh, Omega lol, so bad, right? Like, yeah, I was like, fuck off. Seriously, are you kidding me? Are you serious? Like, I find it hilarious, okay, that people actually talk shit about teams that actually stepped up to the plate and actually, like, went into, like, a massive competition and played live. Like, imagine talking shit about something like that. It is laughable. It's particularly laughable considering the fact that most people in Twitch chat, probably, I don't know, they'd probably feed to the spirit run, dude, okay? They'd probably into it, deep, feeding hard.
That was absolutely infuriating to see. If you're not out there, even if you are out there, you shouldn't be talking shit to those groups. But if you're not out there, especially, you need to shut up and enjoy the entertainment, because you have no right whatsoever to criticize people for trying to push themselves and they make a mistake.
Yep.
Yeah, it's actually insane. It's ridiculous, and that's in every game. By the way, it happens in PvP as well. Like, when there's like new teams. Seriously, it's so annoying, man. It would be like a relatively new team into a pretty established, like everyone's in Plat 3, everyone's in Legend, and everyone will be like spamming Omega. It's like, dude, this team would like obliterate most players in the game, and you're like making fun of this team of new players. And I don't want to give everyone who might be listening to this like a bad idea, guys. If people do this in my chat, I will tell them the fuck right off, because I hate this shit. I think we should be encouraging players and celebrating teams that are stepping up and kind of beginning their first delve into the dive of speedrunning or tryharding in whatever game mode it is, right? PvP, World Buster, or PvE. It is insane that it's like this. And look, I'll say this on record. I'm not going to tolerate it, right? Like, in any way. I will flat out not tolerate it. Okay.
I think it's really good that you don't tolerate it either, because, again, real world example. I keep using basketball just because I watched a lot of NBA. But like if you heckle the players enough and you get like pretty offensive or whatever, like you're gone. You're out of the arena. You paid for those $1,000 courtside well, way more than that probably, but you paid $1,000 tickets, you're harassing a player, you're done. You're gone. The security just hauls you out. So yeah, don't be like that, you know? Just appreciate that people are doing their best, and when they do, it's really commendable. Putting yourself out on a platform like that for all to see, and you've practiced and worked hard at something, even if you're not the best of the best, you know, you worked really hard, and you're probably better than a lot. So
yeah. And
I've got an example.
I was gonna say, I mean, you might be about to say the same as me actually, but I just wanted to point out a really important bonus meme. I think, it should count for something, or at least I hope it do, that a lot of the players who are actually in the hardcore scene, and you know, in the really high-end game stuff, actually do condemn this type of behavior as well. Like Aizza just did there as well. Obviously, myself and Sneb did too. And then after the tournament, in fact, you know, during a Hardstuck raiding party, it was actually quite noticeable that people were being this way, like, and you know, getting banned for it, obviously. But the leader of Snowcrows, and of course the winner of that tournament, Yui, actually, you know, said after the tournament and used his winner's interview to actually say that, yeah, you know, like, big respect to these teams, right? You know, like, people who are talking shit are probably a bunch of scrubs, right? Paraphrasing there, of course. But yeah, it's really important to note that a lot of the players who are genuinely competitive about this stuff are not going to behave this way. Like, you are not going to see actual good players, right? Like spamming Omegle, right? Any player who's like spamming Omegle, making fun of someone else's mistakes is just flat out insecure, right? That's just real. Okay, boom. There's the call out.
Yep.
There was today. I did the Raid League analyst show. Doom was one of the bosses. And there was a group in their description. They said this was our first Doom kill as a guild.
Ooh.
And I made they were the slowest time, as you'd expect, for their first Doom kill. They were the slowest time in this, like, a speedrunning competition, but it was like a 6:30 or something. Like, that's still a crazy fast time, especially for your first Doom kill. And we made a point on the stream of basically saying, like, let's all congratulate them. This is a big accomplishment, a big achievement. This is not something to meme about because their kill was slower than some of the other teams. Like, they just did this. They have an achievement now as a guild together, and they did it in a speedrunning competition. Like, it goes back to the very first point we made, and it's like, why blame people for trying? I don't get it. Yeah, that I remember that when that happened. It was obviously during the Open, not the Invitational. But it's like, it was infuriating to see, and it was refreshing to see players from pretty much every team kind of stepping up together and saying, like, hey, this is not how you act. You do not jump down these people's throats when they make a mistake, essentially on live TV, with pressure all around them in the biggest rating competition in Guild Wars 2.
You're damn right. Yeah, no, I mean, completely agree. And this is something that
we all agree in here.
Yeah, this is something that has been in the community for a long time. Right? Absolutely. I think it's important to actually admit that and concede that, yeah, this has been a thing. But I can promise all of you that in any event that will be run by me or any of my associates, we will not tolerate this kind of thing whatsoever, right? And I would say the vast majority, like 95% plus of the speedrunning community, also wouldn't tolerate behavior like this within their own communities whatsoever, because it's fucking cringe, right? There you go.
Yeah, also, like, everyone, they know very well how everyone started by doing just a whole bunch of mistakes, and probably like way too many mistakes, and yeah, they just learned a lot by doing way more mistakes than everyone else, and by investing, I mean, of course, more time, but like, they just know this, and I think this should be communicated like way more often and way more openly. Like, I say this all the time when I open a squad. If you want to come along, you can join. If it's okay, if you don't know how things work, I will explain everything. If you do mistakes, it's all fine. Like, you can handle with that. Can we deal with that? We can handle it. I have to, like, just in advance, like, basically to like defuse and de-escalate the whole thing, and just like, do your mistakes. You will learn from it. I will help you. It's all right. I was the same when I started.
Yeah.
And so was everyone else.
It's a big problem with communication. Like, I think the entire issue that sparked this conversation from the beginning is about information, right? And the way that you make sure that the correct information is there, not misinformation and, you know, and worry and fear, is by communicating. The different areas of the Guild Wars 2 community need to talk to each other a lot more. There needs to be an open dialogue between everyone. And people need to, you know, kind of get in there, right? I think we need to engage a lot more. I know it sucks, and I need to do this better as well, but, you know, it's not actually good enough for, like, me to sit here on my stream, okay, and say, hello, everyone, how are you guys doing, okay? Raids are pretty good, by the way, you should play them. You actually gonna have to go into the trenches a little bit. You know, Sneb, like, went in there on the Reddit and tried to actually, you know, talk to people about this stuff, right? And we need to as well, right? Like, everyone needs to be kind of confronting in a way, maybe a little bit less dramatic than that, but you know what I mean, right? We need to actually be trying to find this misinformation and try and correct it, because a lot of people will say this just like flat, like with like no evidence in public places, and people will believe it because in general people believe each other because, you know, like people don't assume that everyone's lying, right? Okay, maybe they should, but you know, that's not how it works. And you do have a lot of, oh yeah, raiding is toxic. I mean, look, this a great example of the PvP one. The other day I was on the Reddit, just, you know, got instantly triggered as usual, right? No, I'm kidding. And there was this one guy who said, yeah, you can assume that every single player that's won a monthly AT or is in the top 10 is a win trader, right? It's like, guys, are you kidding me? Like, and I didn't reply because I was like, no, if I reply, I'm going to pull my eyes out. But I probably should have done, right? Like, this is just like a blatant lie, right? I mean... And it was upvoted, right? That's the thing. It was a popular opinion, right? And you see this all the time. You see, like, oh yeah, people say, oh yeah, you'll never be able to get into raids. It's impossible because you know, everyone's asking for 1 million kill proof. Everyone's gonna flame you. You have to. Oh, dude. Oh, this one hurts so much. Yeah, one guy saying like, yeah, you have to play exact meta builds, otherwise there's no way you're gonna be let into go. It's like you have to play Firebrand and Scourge and nothing else. It's like. No, that's not how it works. It's not true, right? But it was very.
Have to be okay.
This post was actually on the front page as well, right? Like, there's so much out there that just is not true, right? And I think misinformation and as Artyo was saying, is basically fear, right? You know, like fear about being kicked for playing a certain build, like, you know, fears about, you know, not playing well enough, you're going to get booted, right? But a lot of this, and this is where, you know, I'm not pushing back against what you said. I agree with the statement that we should try and make it as welcoming as possible, but a lot of the concerns people have are based off misinformation. They are essentially based off falsehoods, right? And a lot of the time, like, outright lies about the community, unfortunately, which I think is really hard to actually to attack. That's difficult to attack, in my opinion.
I think I'd say that the communication line is there. I don't know, maybe some people can speak up if they've had a different experience, but if you reach out to someone in, you know, SC, QT, win, whatever guild you want to look at, and you ask them for help, if they have time, I don't think anyone that I know would just flat out say, no, I'm not going to help you. They'll look at logs, they'll do what they can to help you. They'll sit down. I mean, there's multiple times I've sat down in the Golem room for hours helping people on rotations or something, or going over logs and stuff, just because they DM me or they'll comment on a YouTube video and be like, hey, why did you do this? And I don't think, I understand the fear. Like, I can certainly 100% understand it, because I felt that way a year and a half, 2 years ago. I felt the exact same way. But when you actually reach out, or you go onto the Snowcrow's Discord and you go into one of the channels, which I think the Snowcrow's Discord is probably the biggest collection of these tryhard players, and you just type up in one of the class profession channels, we'll say, I don't know, Warrior, for example, and you'll say, hey, I feel like my damage is really low. Can someone help me with this? And they'll say, okay, send us some logs, and they'll look at them and give you tips. And,
that's not the
guidance.
target, though. Those people aren't the target. Those people are already engaged. We need to communicate with the people who don't actually raid, right? Who aren't interested currently. right? That's who you need to go after. Yeah, those people,
all
I
right,
agree
well-
with you. Yeah, it's really easy to talk to, you know, people who are already in and like actively reach out. But no, we need to be like with our fucking megaphone, like screaming into the void, right? So everyone can hear it, right? Yeah, obviously people who are interested, yeah, that's free, right? You can obviously, you know, help those people and dispel misinformation there. But only like what 0.1% of the community has ever like been inside a raid, right? Like what about all the people who aren't in these communities and aren't, you know, in a lot more public place, right? Like it needs to be, in a more kind of private community that's dedicated to this type of content and who aren't currently interested. You need to reach the people who aren't currently in, right? Because that's where a lot of the weird information kind of gets like spun around and like spins all over the place. Is people who aren't in.
Okay, I've been biting
I'm
my
really sorry,
tongue for a
but
long time.
I was trying to not interrupt, but I have a very interesting thing going currently. Apparently, my trainees are very happy with me, which is very nice. And apparently, they are basically on a mission now to recruit non-raiders from like Twitter, from in-game, from their friend list, from like all over the place. And I think we should. Like, this is maybe a good way to bring this to people who are not even watching streams, probably. So if you know someone who like wants to raid and is not sure if he should give it a try, or he has, as I mentioned earlier, all these anxieties, like holding people back, failing and getting laughed at or whatever, direct them to, like, we have. It's not just Snebzor and me doing raid trainings, it's Dexon is doing this, Mela maybe at some point when he's streaming again. Emmy was doing raid trainings with Guild MM a few days ago, and like even more. Just point them in these directions. Like, basically they just go watch this dude or this girl do a raid training. See how they treat their trainees, and if you like it, maybe it changes your mind and you might give it a try with this specific person, because first of all you have a face, you know like who that is, and you already have seen him doing a training. It's a whole different thing than joining a LFG training where it's like very anonymous. Just point them, like people that you know, just like talk to people, basically is what I'm saying, on the social media, in-game. Show them the way to the resource. Like, don't link them a Discord or thing, like, that's not happening.
Along those lines, though, I've been biting my tongue for a while.
Activate.
I really want to say this.
Unchain.
It's okay if somebody doesn't want to raid, too.
No.
Like, it's okay
No.
if that's not the content. it's okay. Because I've met
not
people
everyone
that, like, you can't force people into raids either. You have to do this very tactfully, right? Some people, raiding is just not for them. Here's a couple examples. If you can't handle criticism, you should not raid. Like, if it really will bother you and, like, affect you, then you shouldn't do it. I'm not saying this to be like, oh, yeah, I'm gatekeeping raids so all the people can't handle criticism. No, I'm saying, like, legitimately, if you can't handle, like, failing a lot and then having people be like, hey, like, this is what you need to work on, if that's going to bother you, then you shouldn't participate, because it'll be really frustrating and hard on you. If you can't handle grouping up with 9 other people and sort of handling the personalities and whatever, you might have a hard time. Maybe you enjoy Guild Wars 2 as a completely solo player. I don't know how, because to me it's an MMO, so it's all about the multiplayer and the social experiences. But if you legitimately play this game as a solo experience, then raiding, you know, you should try it still maybe, but it might not be your favorite content as a result. All I'm saying with this is, I think a lot of times we just assume that because we really enjoy raiding, that other people must. And that's not always the case. I think that we should 100%, and I do this too. On the, I tweeted at Josh Strife Hayes, and I was like, hey, when you want to raid, let me know, right? I think everybody should get into raids. I think raiding is the most fun content, but that doesn't mean it's the most fun content for everyone.
Yep.
Yeah, if you can't handle people don't play an MMO, well, Guild Wars 2 is built for solo play, and then Guild Wars 2 is very much you're in a room full of people, but you're sitting in the corner alone, drinking your drink and eating a cupcake. And then every once in a while, somebody says hi, and you're like, oh, yeah.
Yes, Sneb. The
So-
rest of the game is solo.
So you do have to respect that. Although Guild Wars 2 is an MMO, it's oddly enough, much of the stuff that you do in the game actually doesn't require a lot of teamwork and coordination. Well, by teamwork I mean you don't have to be coordinated. So yeah, just coordination. It doesn't require a ton. There are a few exceptions to that, right? Triple Trouble maybe, Tequaddle to an extent, Marionette, but a lot of the open world stuff and story stuff, you don't need teammates. You just you see them there, but you don't have to talk to them. I mean, and I didn't talk to a lot of people in the community for years. I just did my own kind of solo thing. So just recognize that, right? Recognize that when we are going to sort of sell raids to people, we have to approach that from, where are they at, right? What kind of content do they enjoy? And if we're going after the general open world player, we basically have to sell coordination and team play to them, not just raids. It's different, right? You have to go and say, hey, there's more to this game than just playing alone, right? There's more to this game than just going around and killing world bosses. There's more to this game than just farming gold.
Yeah. Well, for some players, it's really tough, really hard to learn after playing alone for such a long time.
Yes, I actually would.
Your team, you have responsibilities, kind of. One player is not doing one role alone. You can back him, you can support him, you can help him. All these kinds of things. I think almost for me, almost the hardest thing to bring to them and just sell them.
Yeah, the thing is that it's totally okay to play like that. A game, this is a video game, a recreational activity. If you're not having fun, then what are you doing? Why are you playing the game if you're not having fun? The whole point of this is to have fun. And if somebody legitimately does not have fun in raids, then so be it. If somebody's only enjoyment from the game or their main source of fun is just wandering around open world, then awesome. They're experiencing the game and having a good time. They're still a member of the community. They just experience fun in a different way. And that's totally fine.
I can out myself in this at this point. I used to be like this for the longest time.
Me too.
I came to Guild Wars 2 immediately after Guild Wars 1 with some friends from Guild. The Guild is not anymore, and I'm the last one actually playing the game. But yeah, I basically played the game solo, complete, for until basically earlier this year. And the reason, by the way, Teapot, and you don't even know this probably, the reason why I stream now is because of you.
Whoa!
Yes, because I was watching you. That was I think 1 or 2 weeks before the Fractal Rush, and you were talking about motivated players into getting into group content and basically almost the same discussion as we have right now, getting people hyped for raids, for fractals, for getting them into group content, play together, build a community. And you were so hyped, and you got to me, and
Ha! Got one!
Yes, he got one.
Another victim!
Another one in.
And then I was interested in streaming anyway, kinda, but more in the technical side, and I was like, okay, what the heck? I'm just gonna start my thing now, and I'm setting up a channel. No one is gonna watch me because no one knows that I even exist. I played alone, but yeah, I kept doing this, and then for Fractal Rush, I was doing fractal trainings. Basically because of you doing the thing 2 weeks earlier, trying to motivate everyone, including me. Yeah, now I'm here.
Hey, at least something's working then.
Yes. So it's not for nothing, is what I'm saying.
On the topic of people who don't want to raid, I in a way, okay, this might be a little bit presumptuous, but I think the people who get frustrated with raids are the people who do want to raid but feel like they can't, right? I think players who don't really have interest in raiding, that's fine, right? But I also think they just don't care, right? I think the majority of players in the game probably don't even really think about it, right? Like, the idea of a raid doesn't even come into their head, because why the fuck would it, right? When I used to play WoW, I didn't care about raiding, right? Like, I didn't give a shit about that. I was like, dude, I'm here to, like, play my mage and cast fireballs on people, right? That's what I'm about, guys, okay? I'm a fireball enjoyer, right? So I don't think that, like, players like that are really who we're, you know, we're talking about in this regard, because they're just, like, just chilling and enjoying the game. I think that anyone who does kind of have this very negative reaction to stuff like the raid community, I think that there is, at least very often, in my opinion, like, a lot of frustration attached to that. And I think that, you know, we should try and make that go away, right? To make the community more cohesive and less toxic towards itself. Because listen, guys, we're running on fumes here, okay? Like, I'm trying to get this raid show match going for the final beta, guys. SC has 5 people, right? Downstate Cucks, you know, they have 1, right? You know, it's you know, it's not looking so good, okay? We're in trouble, chat, okay? We're gonna have to start aggressive recruitment protocols.
Yeah, Teapot, you mentioned that, you know, how do I explain this? Here's the question I want to ask. What is your sell when you go to someone and be like, you should play raids? So just the average Guild Wars 2 player, when you say, hey, you should try raids, what do you say to them?
I say it's fun. I'm a for
What
fun
do they say
gamer.
back?
Well, I mean, usually the conversation is, hey, like, I want to get into raids. I'm like, yeah, sure, you know, get in there, right? It's a lot of fun. Playing as a group, improving is fun. Like, playing as a team is fun. But what do people say back? I don't really know. I mean, that's kind of where the conversation usually ends. They just say, okay, nice, right? I think...
Well, no, but I'm talking about the people where you're trying to sell them on the idea of playing raids. Like, you're trying to reach these people that just, they've never tried it. They're not coming to you and being like, oh yeah, I want to try this. They're kind of like, oh, I don't really know why I would do raids. What do you say? What's the sell?
Well, I just say it's, yeah, I mean, I can say you can get some, like, unique rewards and stuff. You know, they're actually pretty good if you can do them quickly as well. If you can actually get them done quickly, they're pretty good gold per hour. I don't know. I don't really have that conversation very often, to be honest. You know, because it doesn't go...
I think it's an important conversation.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, the way I usually do it is that it's fun. It's like, why would you play PvP? Because it's fun. Like, why would you play World vs. World? Because it's fun, right? Are you trying to get at the fact that the rewards fucking suck horribly and a lot of endgame content?
That's basically kind of, yeah, that's kind of where I'm going. Because what I hear when I say, oh, like, you should try raids, people just go, why would I? Because I don't get anything for doing it. And I go, well, you know, you can get legendary armor. And they're like, oh, well, I just AFK'd World versus World for that. I mean, you know, or they go, like, the amount of effort, it's not worth it. Or, like, I don't know how to sell people on raids when the most difficult content in the game is perhaps some of the least rewarding.
Oh, it's funny you bring this up, actually, Seb, of course, because there was a Reddit post today, and it's still up there. You guys can go check it out. It's about the marionette, and it was people saying...
I commented on that.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it in a while, but yeah, I talked about this.
The marionette is a recent world boss that was added, and it is a big step up compared to a lot of other bosses. It can fail, right? It can absolutely fail if you mess around with it too much. And hey, funny enough, hey guys, if you want to do the marionette, we do the marionette every single day on both servers. Discord.gg/Hardstuck. But the real big problem, and it came up again and again and again and again in the thread, was no one does the marionette because the risk reward, or even just the reward for time investment, is horrible, right? It's a really, really bad investment for players because you get 2 gold. I think you get more than that. Obviously, you get some sprockets and stuff and some champ bags at the end of it. But 1, it's a relatively long event, and 2, it can actually fail. Right, and so players don't feel very attracted to it because the Guild Wars 2 community is heavily conditioned to engage with rewards, right, in yes. Pretty much in nothing else, right? And this absolutely does cause problems with players kind of onboarding into endgame because it's simply not worth it, right? You know, you can get way more gold by doing basically any other activity than learning raids, right? In fact, a lot of the time, learning raids will be a gold sink because you'll be buying gear, buying consumables, right? And then just, you know, do it. You know, you'll be just wiping over and over again until you get better at it, right? Yeah, they're absolutely. it probably won't happen for a very, very long time, but I think they should be looking at rewarding player, at actually caring about not just time or theoretical time investment, but potential time investment. Because if you, again, here's the really, this is the problem with this argument, and where I think it does get, where you are going to have to start treading some new ground in Guild Wars 2. In other words, rewarding skill, which is not something that happens very often in the game, or ever really, outside of PvP. You get more pips in PvP, for example. But here's the problem. If you actually do raids quickly, like if you can do a full clear in 2.5 hours or like under 3 hours, yeah, raids are actually really good. If you can do the Marionette quickly, right, and not wipe on it, yeah, the Marionette is actually a pretty significant gold increase, right? It's a good gold per hour. Now, the problem is that if you don't, it becomes awful, right? If you fail the Marionette once, yeah, all of a sudden your gold per hour sucks. Like if you wipe a fair bit on raids, yeah, your gold per hour is now really, really bad, right? From generating that, and just like AFKing an open world would have been a much better call for you instead, like in terms of profit. This is the core
what we already
issue.
have in the game?
What do we have in the game?
Sorry. That addresses this pretty efficiently?
What?
Strike mission rewards.
Not really though. Because
it's just
all of those rewards assume that you actually beat the encounter.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess you do a combination of raids and strikes. Like raids, you do get something if you fail. It's not great, but you get something, I guess. But strike missions, you're rewarded for faster kills, which theoretically means you're better players. So you're rewarded on skill, and you're rewarded for practicing.
Yeah, yeah, okay, that's not quite, I expressed that incorrectly. Skill requirement is not rewarded, right? Okay. So, yeah, sure, like skill ceiling, there's some good stuff there. Obviously, you know, the faster you do stuff, the better it's going to be. But the problem is that if you aren't good enough to clear the raid, you get absolutely nothing. Right? If your group crumbles to dust because everyone starts feeding, right? Then yeah, then you get absolutely nothing. I'm not saying you should get something for failure in raids. I mean, you kind of get some shards and stuff, right, which is not too bad. But what I mean is that content that has a high skill requirement to complete isn't really any more rewarding than content that has no skill requirement to complete. So what's the selling point there? Which is kind of what Sneb was getting at here. Like, why would a player put effort in when they're going to actually get worse rewards than not putting effort in? And because, think about it, in our ape brain, right? Like monkey see, right? Monkey do, right? Well, in your ape brain, doesn't that mean that you're being rewarded for not trying, essentially? Like, that is the natural consequence of that, which is kind of what happens, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you're not doing anything, like you're doing meta trains or whatever instead of raiding and doing a raid boss. But I think they have to install some sort of difference, like clearer difference now. Because at some point, and I really, like, it's a shame that happened, but players, I feel like, stopped caring for fun content, and it just has to be fast and rewarding content now, basically, like you said. Like if it's not like a gold per hour thing, if that's not good enough, I'm not gonna play that content. That's just what it is, and it doesn't matter if it's boring or fun or something between. And I think they should, I don't know, I was thinking while you were talking, they should maybe give more reward for trying. I think failing is the wrong word, maybe. But like, you should get rewards for actually trying the content and putting in the effort, but not to a degree that failing, like on purpose failing, is more rewarding just by doing this a whole lot and then just killing the boss. That's maybe not ideal, because people just fail on purpose, which is like not what you want.
Well, I think you just need to have a payoff that's worth it, right? Because right now the payoff in terms of rewards just kind of isn't a very good deal for anyone who doesn't raid already, right?
Yeah, I mean, we get magnetite shards, and I think a lot of people actually don't even know what to do with that. Like, it's just a thing that you have in your wallet, and like. Well,
and I think we also need to reevaluate and maybe redefine the word failure and the word failing. Failing has such a negative connotation when it really isn't bad. Is depending how you look at it. Failure's fine if you learn from it and grow from it. Failure is not okay if you fail and you're just like, all right, whatever, and don't make adjustments or don't even think about why you failed. So, like, failing a raid, wiping to a boss is completely fine, and to a certain extent, like I mentioned earlier, completely expected. I don't know how many times I've wiped to bosses. It's well over 10,000, I'm sure, and that's not bad.
And this
It's
is
not
where,
bad to wipe.
Sneb is going to activate here because this is something that Sneb brings up a lot. And the problem is...
I'm back here now. What
Well,
did I miss?
I was going to say you're going to activate because we're just now getting into the topic, the fact that raids are kind of one of the very few areas of the game where you are expected to fail, right? Whereas most content in the game is unfailable. So, and I said that was going to activate you. Yeah, now see he's activated, right? He's yeah. And the problem with this is that because players never expect to fail, it means that any time where failure is encountered, this makes players not want to do it. And the example here is Triple Trouble, Twisted Marionette, right? All this kind of stuff. And I guess the only thing you can do, right, is that you have to try and introduce some of these concepts into the open world with very good rewards, right? For example, if the Marionette gave 2 gold and 2 mystic coins, I think a lot more people would do it, for example. Because then, okay, that's a juicer, right? That is a juicer payoff. Because that means in 15 minutes, you can get 2 gold, a bunch of sprockets, and 5 gold and mystic coins. Okay, wait, maybe it might have to be 3 even. Would it have to be? I think you'd actually want to overcook it, no, right? Like, if you want to try and convince players to try content that might fail, you want to overkill it, no? Like, you'd almost want to tune it so it's still worth it even if you fail at least once, right? I think, right?
But Teapot, that would crash the economy and ruin the economy. It'd be farmable content.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be. It would still be
We
daily,
have so much
right?
farming content anyways.
It would still be daily. Yeah, I know what you mean, and that's obviously a valid concern, right? You wouldn't want to make it so that everyone could like farm Omega rewards. But listen, guys, okay, like. Just
come on.
If you're ever worried about this stuff, just think about like how much gold gets added on every single Octoburn, right? It's like insane. But yeah, sorry, Sneb, activate. It's your chance.
Is just again. First of all, that's just the most ridiculous notion. Like even if it was 3 mystic coins, because think about this: you get a mystic coin plus some gold and stuff for basically free by just killing this guy that's running around in a circle on the map that's not even dangerous.
Daily anomaly.
And so you're telling me that a 15, and you can do this in like 2 minutes. So you can get a mystic coin in 2 minutes that's daily, and you're telling me that people are going to be upset at a 15-minute-ish event that gives 2 mystic coins and 2 raw gold and has a high likelihood of failure if people aren't,
on
in
point.
sync. So, like, what? Like, that's just the most ridiculous thing ever. It just is. I mean, why can't we have more risk and reward in the game where, hey, like this content requires you to practice and become more skillful, and as a result, will be rewarded for that? Why is that a bad thing? That can't be a bad thing, right?
Because
you don't
remember,
have to
trying
do
is
that
bad.
content. You don't have to do that content. Just like I don't have to fish. If I hate fishing in End of Dragons, I'm not going to do it. Why would I? Unless there's like some legendary, like the legendary aqua breather is like stuck behind fishing, then I'll do it to get the aqua breather, then I'm done, right? I'm not going to just fish to fish, But because you ultimately should do things that you enjoy that promote having fun in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
okay,
I agree.
so here's my activation though. Look, if you want to play AFK Wars, then do it, right? I see so many people do this at Drakkar, at all the world bosses. They just blink, then they're watching their Netflix show. Like, if that's really how you're having fun, then do it, I guess. But the problem with having a system like this is that the consequence is that players don't know how to play the game. Like they don't know how to engage with the game well. And I'm not just saying that to sound like elitist. It's just true. Like if you don't actually practice playing, it's like the equivalent is if you went to the gym to go to basketball practice, but you just watched everyone else play. and you're like, oh yeah, I went to practice the other day, and you're like, oh, did you have some good reps? You're like, sure did. And then you go into the game, you don't even know how to shoot the ball because you've just watched other people play the game. There's just not a lot in the game that promotes getting. You can't fail. Like normally, look, if 5 people sat idly in a basketball game, the other team would win like 500-0, right? It would be insane. But in Guild Wars 2, half your squad can be completely idle, and most things still die. And the problem is that, I mean, that's fine, but and I'm really a proponent of accessibility. I think that's really important. The consequence to this, however, is we now are in a situation where a lot of people aren't super experienced and understand the mechanics of the game, and people don't know how to fail, and they don't know how to learn from failure. Look, this happened to me today. I just went into a KC instance, and we died like 8 times. And you know what? It sucks when that happens. But you know what's good about that is that everybody learns something from that encounter. Because we kept failing, and why did we keep failing? You had to identify the points, right? It's okay to fail. I fail all the time. Fail at my job. I fail. I fail at training my dog. Like I don't know. It's okay to fail. You learn stuff, right? And if you're not okay with failing, then like I don't know. I guess like what's the point? Is it really winning if there's no failure? That's really philosophical, but I mean, it's kind of a good point. Like here's another good question. If you took a test that you could never fail, is it really a test?
Holy
so you go
shit.
kill this boss that you're supposed that you can never die at, that you'll never fail it as long as there's the right number of people are there. Is it really like an event? Like, does it really matter? Did you really win? Did you really succeed?
Holy shit, dude, Sneb, this is wild, bro. This is taking a turn. And dude, Sneb with these gym analogies too. You know, he's about to get ripped.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm taking dancing classes currently because last time on the dance floor I ran into everyone. It was a whole mess. So I figured, hey, maybe I should actually learn what I'm doing. So, but it's the same thing, and but I'm completely with Snebzor. With the I have listened to him discussing this a lot now, and I was always sitting here and nodding. Like I'm also missing a wall in the game that you can just run against, like in the open world actually, or even if this in the story, something that you can run against, where you can fail, and then have to like overthink your actions, how you attempted the boss, what the build that you played. Maybe you should not play everything as like full heal, where you do like 0 damage and you cannot kill the champion or face him, whatever. And I was thinking back to like the old Guild Wars 1 days. So I think, did we all play Guild Wars 1? I think so.
Yep.
Where you actually had to redo the entire mission when you failed because your group composition was not ideal. So what not just you didn't play the right build, but like the whole group composition was not working. So you had to do even more work after failing. And yeah, can have this all the time when you play hard mode missions. You fail and you have to redo everything. Imagine having to like restart a raid because you failed at Lagos. You have to keep CA again or something. But still, people played the content. It was accessible. Like you could just go to the mission and start the thing. And it was not an issue at all. There was not like people quitting the game because they had to do the first or second mission in Ascalon like 2 times because they got like mobbed by way too many chars or something.
Well, I think that your gaming is different now. It is definitely a little bit less like that than it used to be, for sure.
And we're also like way too much conditioned in the way
Guild Wars 2
now,
is.
Basically.
Like, Guild Wars 2 is a very certain way. I mean, like, yeah, I always love this, but I just find it so funny that there are some story instances where you literally cannot die, right? I think there's this one where you're with glint, right, or something like that. No, you're doing like a trial.
How
with
is that
Aurene,
satisfying
right?
at all?
And if you lose, you immediately just insta revive, right? And the boss hasn't lost, hasn't like gained health. Like you cannot lose. Like you cannot lose. The fight will win one way or another, right?
So funny, like a funny thing about that, and this doesn't really like pose argument or anything like that. I've been doing, like most people have, catching up on all the living story stuff and doing all that. Well, oftentimes I've been like working from home, so I'm not fully paying attention to the game. There was one time I got a call from my manager in the middle of a story instance. I can't remember what mission it was. It was a couple episodes ago. And I went AFK, and I expected to come back, and either it didn't progress or I died. It completed itself without me. The NPCs went through the mission, killed whatever the enemies were, and when I got back, it said, "Episode completed, here's your rewards." And I'm like, I've been AFK for 45 minutes, and the game just played it for me.
Yeah, that shouldn't be
That
the case.
shouldn't exist.
Yes, exactly.
And
That is a little
people are going to
tragic.
say that people are going to be like, oh, but like there are really hard story missions and stuff, and they don't all do that. The problem is that the majority do. Like, look, everybody, spoiler, okay? Spoiler. If you haven't played through the game, this is your opportunity to like mute for a second, okay? But in Path of Fire, which is one of the expansions, end boss, again, spoiler, Balthazar, you're fighting a literal god.
Oh my gosh.
You're fighting a literal god, okay? Like, you'd think that this would be like next level, right? You're fighting a literal god. I went AFK and came back, and I just was like, still there. I was like, what? What? I don't understand. And there's no true fail state. You just like I just kept hitting revive.
Yeah. Would that maybe already be enough for a lot of players? Like a little bit tougher if like just the NPCs wouldn't revive you?
I just think the ship has sailed in this. I think this discussion is, we're memeing about like the woes of Guild Wars 2 game design, but in my opinion, the ship has sailed. The way that you have to attack this is by saying, right, the rewards have to be so good that it's worth it. With this stuff, like you can't change it now. And look, you can't look. People like were really upset about the goddamn Eater of Souls. When I did the Eater of Souls in the in the story in Path of Fire, it literally died in 2 seconds. Like it's not even me. It died in 2 seconds, and people said that they got Hardstuck for hours. People even said that Big Nose Ted was too hard in the story, or like in the original Human story, like they said Big Nose Ted was too hard. Like the game is not good. They're not going to make the game baseline hard enough, but they absolutely can and should weight content that is hard to do to have much better rules. Like open world bosses need to be way Triple Trouble gives 2 gold right now. To be fair, at the time that was actually significantly better than it is now because times change with regards to the economy, right? And you could actually high roll and get like a really rare mini worm head that was really good. But times change, right? Like 2 gold isn't that much anymore. That's not very attractive considering how much effort it is to actually beat that event. I think I shit you not. I think Triple Trouble could be justified to be actually have a 10 gold reward at the end of it. Like, no joke. Okay, that is. I think that's actually true. You could definitely justify that, in my opinion. Maybe not in liquid gold because liquid gold is a little bit scary. You don't want to like throw liquid gold everywhere. But you could easily justify 10 gold worth of value from that event because people don't do that shit. Like, yeah, it does get done. Every day by specific groups, but it's a very, very uncommon event. Like most people won't even know it exists right at this point, right? Because like the way it is.
I have to admit something. I've never killed Triple Trouble.
See, there you go. He's never killed Triple Trouble, right?
Wow. Okay.
This guy's a hardcore raider, win leader, right? And he hasn't killed Triple Trouble. Boom. So I think that would be a really good thing to do. Like, just like make the challenging content like the Marionette and introduce more stuff like this because I genuinely believe this. In my opinion, you don't go in there like all guns blazing and say, hello, new players, welcome to Guild Wars 2. How about a nice Doom CM? No, you don't do that. I think what you can do is you can say, right, if we do the meta train like this, and we have all of our subgroups organized like this, we can get way more damage, way more boons, so none of us die, and we can get our loot faster and get more events done. It's friendly, it's cozy, right? Everyone's having fun. people are, starting to think about the way they might play the game a little bit better, they're comfortable, right? Like in that environment. And then you can suggest something else, right? Like then you can start talking about maybe fractals, strike missions, PvP, world versus world, right? And you move up the ladder like that, right? But it begins with just getting people thinking about the way they're playing and how they can make what they're currently doing more efficient. Because everyone in this game wants loot. Everyone wants the loot, right? So this is why you'd say you take a meta train, which is what I did, right, with Hardstuck. I said, okay, everyone does this meta train anyway. I'll make it better, right? And we'll make it more efficient and we'll make it more fun. We'll make it more engaging. And that is the first domino, right, that turns someone into a hardcore DPS benchmarking greasy nerd.
Can I play devil's advocate for a second, though?
Go.
So, I really want to make it clear that I
hate
agree
casuals.
that it does make it more engaging and more fun if you're running in a group and you're sort of speed running. That's the kind of thing that I enjoy. However, if we're talking about the average Guild Wars 2 player here, why would they want to be more engaged? Right? They are rewarded sufficiently for basically just chatting with their friends and pressing 1. And so is the gold increase really worth it? Right? Like how significant is it?
Ooh.
Right? How significant, what's the difference in gold that they make from running the Omega meta train versus just like a regular meta train?
Honestly, I think it is a big increase. To be fair, actually, it definitely is a consistent thing, and the fact and just the very fact that we have it quantified, actually, I think is a big psychological factor in making people want to do it more. But additionally, I think it causes people to have fun, right? As well, I think it increases the amount of fun.
What if they say they're
people
already having fun?
Well, in that case, that's fine, right? You're never gonna get 100% retention. Or rather 100% conversion from players who just like hang out and do quests and people who do instance content. That will never happen. Look at World of Warcraft, look at Final Fantasy. There are, in fact, particularly, actually, I won't say particularly Final Fantasy because I actually did some research on this and this is an absolute fact. There are loads of people who play just the story in WoW and then log out and wait for the next patch. And the same is true in Final Fantasy. And that's fine. Right, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But the important thing is that we create the correct inlet for our game. We don't try and look. Instead of forcing our way onto other people, we should get involved in what people are currently doing, and then say, "Hey, we've got this as well," right? So instead of saying, "Right, this is how you start doing raids," fucking do it, right? Bunch of noobs, bunch of scrubs, right? No, we look at what's currently really popular in the game. We look at the way that players engage with the game, and that's farming, rewards, open world, right? And we say, right, how can we make that better? How can we make the experience for these players a better one, right? More fun, less downtime, more gold, just smoother, right? Less failure rate, right? And that's what we tried to do with the meta train, right? I looked at something that already existed, and we just hit it with a hammer and made it better, right? And that's incredibly effective. We should continue to do that, right? And continue to try and improve these things because that's what's going to get people a little bit interested in other things. And if they aren't, that's fine. If they if players never this is going to sound a little bit weird, a little bit condescending perhaps. So I please don't take it that way, guys. If people stay at the meta train forever, great. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that, right? Like, you should enjoy the game however you see fit. Like, if you never leave, like Divinity's Reach and only RP there, that's fine as well. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's really important that people learn about the options that the game has and how they might go about accessing that, but also feel confident to even try it. Like, fractals, most players would not really have that much of a difficulty with, like, completing tier 4 fractals, let alone tier 1 fractals. But it's the concept of instance content where there will be a level of individual responsibility that gets to people. Like, that's what actually gets people, not the actual difficulty itself. People can clear it, right? They'll be able to clear it, but that is not the same thing as actually joining it. Like, actually joining it is the problem, right? And yeah, if people are already having fun, then people are already having fun, right? And that's cool. There you go.
I have a completely different problem with this to bring up. for players that are like this, so that I would say, I don't want to like segment them into their own group because we should all kind of be one community. But we'll talk about the players who log in, do the meta train, do some open world, some story or whatever, log out. They have no interest in PvP, world versus world, end game PVE content, anything like that. Increasing rewards for something like Triple Trouble. What does that give them? They don't need money for anything.
Well, but the thing is,
what does that give you and me? We don't need money for anything.
To be super clear here, like that kind of player never bothers anyone. That is like the most peepo happy, probably has way more fun than any of us here in the game, right? Player in the universe. This player is the opposite of a problem. They're a joy, right? They love the game, they love everything about it, and they have fun. Like, this is not the target here. The target is the player who would want to go a little bit further, or does want to go a little bit further, but doesn't know how, or has never seen the way, right? Or you know, and with that, you don't know until you try. Like, when you try a new, I mean, look, there was a first time when I had spicy food, right? And I was like, ooh, am I gonna like spicy food? Is it good? Am I gonna hate it? Am I gonna fucking die on contact and be allergic? I don't know, right? But then you try it and you go, oh, dude, I love spicy food because I actually do really like spicy food. But some people, the first time they try it, they're like, dude, this is dog shit. Why would you ever eat this, right? Or like alcohol, like beer or whatever. Like, some people just really don't like beer, right? First time you try it, you have no idea if you're going to like it or not, right? And this is the point, right? Like, yeah, when, you know, if people are content, then they're completely content, right? And that's fine. And players who don't really care about rewards, then great. Then maybe we could offer them something else, right? Which is that, you know, that community feeling there, you know? Like, I think in general, most people would agree that playing games with friends is more fun than playing games, you know, on your own. And that, I would say that about any game, really, you know, like, more or less. Like, you know, it's all, you know, you can play a really shitty video game and still have fun if you're playing with your friends, right? Okay? Hey, that's why League of Legends is still around. Am I right, boys? Okay? No, I'm sorry, League. I apologize, okay? That was
very true.
It was a funny joke, okay? It's a hilarious joke right there about League of Legends.
I'd love to, yeah.
But anyway,
so you're targeting someone who, say, like me, has never killed Triple Trouble.
Yeah, sure.
And you want to get me into that content.
Yeah, why not? But the same thing with raids, right? You know, think about the other way around, right? Instead of, you know, you haven't killed Triple Trouble, maybe you'd like it, maybe you wouldn't. I don't know, right? But it's the other way around. So, like, people who have never raided but would like it. There's probably a whole bunch out there, right? There are players who have never played PvP who would probably really like it, right? But again, they
probably hundreds, if not thousands.
They just never even get...
probably, yes.
Yeah, and they never get introduced to it for one reason or the other. Right? It might be that, again, you know, they don't feel comfortable in that environment. So, again, that's why you start you start by being in, you know, being in the space that they're in and showing, hey, look, this is our mentality, right? This is the way that we approach the game. We think it's pretty fun, right? And this will really help you if you want to learn raids, right? And you know, by this kind of reaching out the olive branch thing, you humanize yourself. You say, oh yeah, look at us. Like, we're a bunch of raiders, but look, we also really enjoy open world content. Like, you know, look, we're the same, right? We're in the same community, right? We're all playing Guild Wars 2. We love this content as well. Like, we enjoy it. And look, you know, we're having fun. We're memeing up, doing like some speedrun stuff, right? Like doing some advanced farming tactics, right? Everyone can join on board here. Everyone can have fun, and it's completely safe, right? And you take that, and then you can then say, hey, do you want to try this, right, as well? And you then, because people are comfortable in the environment that you created, that, you know, with content that they're familiar with, they're much more likely to then take that next step and give it a try, right? Because they know that, hey, Teapot runs the meta trades. He would never betray me, okay? Like that, it's the trust, the bond that you start there. And that's the approach that I think, and I think that's the way to go. I mean, look,
I get it.
My argumentation is so good that it's completely floored everyone. I am truly the god of debates. But yeah, I mean, that might be a pretty good place to kind of wrap things up, because it is getting late, and we've been yapping on for a long time. Does anyone have any final thoughts on the discussion, the debate, the bonus tea time that we've had here today?
Yeah.
TeaTime light, yeah.
Yeah? This is tea time after hours, after dark.
It's decaffeinated tea time.
Yes.
Hell yeah. But any conclusions? Final thoughts, gentlemen?
I guess, well, one, for those of you that are more casual players, respect the grind. You know, if somebody's willing to put in effort because they're passionate about something and they have some sort of niche in their hobby or whatever, just respect it. I think it's kind of cool that people are willing to do that. And you know what? It just puts more eyes on a game that you love. And so even though you might have slightly different passions within the same hobby, don't let that, I guess, what's the word? Distance you, right? Respect it. Similarly, if you're an experienced player, or like one of those speed runners or something, continue, or if you're not doing this, then start to go and just help new players when they have questions, answer them. Try to not create rifts, and of course, for everyone, don't be toxic, whatever that means. Who knows what toxic means anymore? But just try to be respectful to each other and communicate, and that's going to go a long way, a long way. And finally, yeah, it's been a pleasure to be here. Yeah, apparently, if you type Goose Jam in the chat enough times, that ArenaNet will notice, and then like from the clouds will part, and like a holy hand will come and descend arches upon my name that suddenly make me ArenaNet partner. So yeah,
Sneb for ARENANET partner.
Guild MM.
Absolutely.
Guild MM. I have a lot of Mystic coins, but more on that later. Okay. Aizza and Artyo, do you have any final thoughts to conclude here? Good koi passer in the chat, by the way. I like that.
I'd say for the bridging the gap is probably the biggest issue here. And I don't know if there's any true solution to it, but I think individually, every one of us should be more proactive about it. If you're maybe a little bit more casual, laid back, never had your feet in the water of raiding or fractals, maybe step out of there a little bit. Go to the deep end. Take a little dive. Try, if you see a training, sign up for it. Or if you don't see any trainings, find a Discord like, I don't know, Hardstuck or wherever, and try to get trained. You'll never know if you like it or if you're good at it until you try. And if you don't try, you're almost doing yourself a disservice. You're leaving this whole aspect of this beautiful game out and not trying it. And for the more hardcore players, the ones that are playing this game for hours and hours and hours a day, if you see someone struggling or if you see someone who maybe needs a little bit of a helping hand, reach out to them and give them a helping hand respectfully. Don't be rude about it. Don't be toxic about it. Don't just whisper them and say, yo, your DPS is trash. Get back in the golem and practice. But help them. Like, offer to, if you have time, offer to help them for 15 minutes or something. They may not get better, but you just made their day. And they'll stay in that content because of what you did.
It's very wholesome. Okay, Artyo, any final memes?
Very, very tough to add something to that now. I've never done a conclusion like this in the end of such a discussion, but I would say suggest raid trainings and raids and raid content on Twitch to non-raiders that you might know as another game mode that might be something for them. Be respectful about to them when they're hesitating. Also, spread the word on social media. There is more than just in-game LFG and map chat and all of these things. And also, there's a world outside of the Hardstuck Discord. Who knew? I think that's it.
Boom!
Yep.
I like it. Big discussion, guys. I appreciate it. Okay? Love to see that indeed. I cannot
Also,
wait
rock.
for Sneb to get roasted hardcore if I end up uploading this to YouTube. Oh, I'm looking forward to it so much.
Big rock.
I just think
Big
everyone's
rock.
gonna write based in the chat.
Oh, really?
In the comments.
Yeah? Based or based g? What's it going to be?
I don't know. One
Right.
or the other.
Juice based.
Yeah, that was pretty juicy though. I love to see it. Very nice. Be sure to follow, subscribe to everyone here. Love to see it. There you go. I'm kind of doing like TeaTime light introduction there as well. But now, it's maybe time for one more thing before I depart from the internet. Guild MM. Okay, Guild MM. Are you a Mystic Coin fan?
No.
You could say that. All your holdings are Mr. Coins.
Yeah.
So, you know, let's just say if something happens to them, everything in the Hardstuck Finance funding is gone to shit.
True, actually. Yeah, that is true, actually. Yeah, well, we've got tier 6 as well, I guess. But yeah, mostly Mystic Coins. But, so, would you like to kind of tell us? I mean, you've probably been, I imagine, been keeping an eye on the situation that's been going on recently. Give us the juice, okay? Because I've got a little bit of information here. But because I don't know if you...
sure you have some information.
Yeah.
So,
give us the juice.
Could be unrelated to a particular person, but there is someone trading, let's just say, a lot of items right now on the overflow, and they're trading from a very new account.
Ah, yes.
And they're claiming to be a new player. So it could be one of three things. It could be either they're actually just a new player and they're just a big whale and they just want to throw all the gems at ArenaNet and make them rich. Very good solution if you ask me. Or they could be honestly manipulating something or figured a way to dupe a shit ton of gems. Also pretty bad actually, because it doesn't give any money. Or three, they could just be duping and they found the vault to Castellano's printing machine, and that's what they're doing.
Well, isn't there a chance that somebody abused the crap out? Did you not? There's something on Reddit where a guy found a way to like get infinite gems, and it was out for like maybe a few hours. I don't know.
Yeah, they patched it, so this is why I'm saying
they patched it. But what if somebody else found it and then abused the crap out of it, and now they have all this wealth?
This is
that's why I'm saying why it could be one of those three. Like,
this is the information I have. The individual in question, I've actually had direct contact with them. They actually sent me a huge amount of items, well over 5k MC and 2 Mystic Infusions at the same time as well. They claim to have over 120,000 MC purchased, right? And they also sent me a screenshot of their email, which contained 440 8,000 gem purchases. Okay? Now...
Yeah, but would that be...
Well, that's the thing. The only remaining question is, are those legitimate? Okay? That's the big question. Was it using the pay safe method, or is it simply someone who is actually new to the game and has a shit ton of money? Right? Now, it being a new account, and the email was also new as well. Bear that in mind. It was a fresh email account too, it seems.
Oh, this is so sad.
Yeah,
okay, but I don't...
The account is new, like there's no denying it, but the particular thing is like they say they're new to the game, but they're buying very specific things, like something that you wouldn't know unless someone maybe told you like these are the expensive items in the game, you know, over legendary weapons, right? So it's very specific that they went for infusions, unless someone just told them like, oh yeah, people like love infusions, like this is the fashion that a lot of rich people like. So it could be. I don't know if they sent you just screenshots or like they even sent you all the emails with all the ID codes for all those emails that were gem purchases. I don't know. Either way, we're just keeping an eye, but there's nothing like really you could do. I mean, so far as it goes to me, like this person either might actually just be a whale, and if there is other suspicious activity, then we'll find out. But right now, it doesn't seem like they've done anything wrong, although like 120,000 gold in items in their first day is gonna be, you know, raising some suspicions here.
I just find it a little sus that like
they bought most of that stuff by the way.
Playing, they send TeaPot 5,000 Mystic Coins and 2 Mystic Infusions. It just seems so odd. Like that just
it's definitely the same person who raised the price of MC today. The other infusions that they have, that they actually made trades on the Overflow Discord. Like most of that came from the Overflow Discord that they bought from players. And so this is where it raised suspicion because we're on that Discord and we saw like people reporting them saying, hey, this dude like just traded these items with me, but like the account is very new and they say this is their main account. So this is why we looked into it.
I will actually try and get it confirmed and I'll obviously let you guys know. I'm going to talk to the ArenaNet partner people tomorrow when they come back because it's weekend right now. But yeah, I'll contact them and they might be able to, well, they should be able to help confirm these items if these are actually obtained by legitimate means, or of course if they are indeed scuffed. And guys, I've got some amazing news. Okay, I'm gonna make a lot. I'm gonna enjoy this actually, because if they aren't legit, I will actually delete them live on stream. Okay, I will delete all of the Mystic coins and the Mystic infusions for everyone to see. Okay, so that's gonna be some good content, I think. So yeah. It'll be fun. We'll see.
Saying in the chat, by the way, that like this dude actually sent stuff to Shay as well, and then I also did hear that they also sent stuff to Souls. So like this dude's just been going around gifting streamers.
That's a little sus because you know, like you wouldn't necessarily know well, I guess you can just go on Twitch, right, and just like see who the big streamers are. I guess like who's got viewers at the time. So maybe that's not that sus. But I mean,
Yeah, you can just look at the like that website that has the lists of the top 10 streamers or whatever in each category.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
it's not... You can also like, I think Shay has been doing giveaways lately. She hit a milestone on her stream. I can't remember what it was. So she might have a little bit of a boosted viewership because of that. Because as we all know, the whole giveaway mentality in Guild Wars 2 that brings all the peepos to the yard.
You know when the MCs went up today, I think it happened for me. What happened like around the afternoon, which I couldn't take advantage to make money on those MCs because I was at work, kind of pissed off. All the other parents are making fun of me for working. They happened in the afternoon, and that's roughly the time Souls and Shay stream, at least on my end. So I would assume they were literally watching Twitch and seeing who was online. Yeah, they probably just saw them and went on their streams because they're usually at the top category.
Yep.
It's an interesting one. It's a mystery. I think we'll find out soon, though, one way or the other. It'll be some good content. Some good content.
To the mystery person out there, if you wouldn't mind sending me like 4 or 5 legendary weapons, that'd be great.
Ooh, Sneb, if you accept that, bro, you're never getting a net partner now. If you accept that gold, you know
listen, either it's bad and like then you could just delete them, like make content and delete them in front of people, right? Or it's good and then we could just make it to use and make more money out of it. So you know, it's a
look, I'm missing a great sport. That'd be nice, you know.
True.
Wow.
Just hang on to him until it's proven that he's innocent. Once that's proven, that stuff's yours. If he comes out guilty, toss it in the trash.
Yep, pretty much. And it's funny either way, so it's all good, right? It's fantastic. I wouldn't delete the Mystic coins. Those are legit from the TP, from the listen. Well, yeah, of course. The items themselves are fine. I mean, like it's the case of how are those items obtained, right? That's the real issue. Look, it's the same thing because basically for HRP, Hardstuck Raiding Party, one of the reasons why we actually had a bit of trouble with funding it is because unfortunately we had to delete some of the legendary weapons we had. Because they were found to be not entirely legitimate, right? Our accounts actually got flagged by the system. Okay.
Certain individual.
Yeah, they were actually not Cassiano. Weirdly enough, none of the stuff with Cassiano ever got flagged. By the way, Cassiano was mostly Motor rather than and a few other things, right? Like previous to that, right? Rather than Hardstuck Raiding Party. But yeah, like that. That was the meme there.
Interesting.
So yeah, we deleted like 20 legendary weapons.
Ouch.
Should have done that on stream.
That's
honestly.
only a small amount of money.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a little rough, guys. Okay. But yeah, so even though the item was not, well, obviously those legendaries were not directly illegitimate, right? They were created by illegitimate means, essentially, or rather bought with illegitimate means, and that was that was an issue. Okay. Who needs 40k gold, right? Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it was painful because I thought we were actually really comfy on gold for HRP. Turns out it wasn't the case. But yeah, there you go, right? There you go. Unlucky. I'm gonna head off now, though, guys. In fact, you know what? Who better? Okay, who better to raid than Diaxon right now? He is win leader, aka Downstate Cucks, one of the most powerful guilds in the entire game. We're raiding. I want all of you guys to get in there and peer pressure him, social pressure him into making a team for my beta tournament for raids. Otherwise, we can't do it, and the PvP community wins. Do you guys want to lose to the PvP community? I don't know. Maybe you do. But if you guys don't get a fucking team together for a show match, then PVE is officially dead, and PvP is the superior community. So, go Saturday Jackson, guys. Social pressure into making a team for the Bear Tour so we can get some energy going there as well, guys. Follow the stream. Follow me on YouTube. Subscribe there. Look, there are all the social medias. Check it out, guys. Get in there right now. Follow Sneb. Follow Artyo. Follow Guild MM. Follow Aizza, even though he doesn't stream very often. Actually, he seems fucking Zelda, actually. Never mind. Okay, he does stream, but only Zelda, right? Not Guild Wars 2, because he fucking hates Guild Wars 2. But anyway, that's it. I'm out of here. Buy the game using my referral link. Buy a fucking referral link. VPN, Surfshark VPN. Sneb, go.
I'm tweeting out pictures of the nasty headband
Oh,
right now.
Oh yes!
I'm tweeting them right now.
Wait, I'm taking a look.
Wait,
where is it?
I'm taking the pictures as I'm speaking. It's gonna be a second.
Okay, we're going to retweet this, guys. We're going to retweet this now. Okay, I'm just going to link Sneb's Twitter, and you guys can retweet it when it comes out. But anyway, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Saturday Axe, and have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Be sure to retweet and follow Sneb's disgusting, putrid headband tweets that he's about to make there. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for a raid speedrun with the lads there. It's non-stop action here, guys, okay? Enjoy it. Yeah, tweet it at ArenaNet, too. Tweet it at ArenaNet. Like, please let me wash my headband, okay? But anyway, that's it. I'm out of it, guys. Good night. Thanks for watching. Bye.